Chapter 1. Hey Ren, have you been waiting long? Sorry, something went wrong with Professor Connor's experiment and I'm late. It doesn't matter, I just arrived a little bit early. Okay, I believe it. As an apology, I'll treat you to dinner at the same HYDRA restaurant last time, okay? If this is a date, I'm okay with it. Then you need to work harder, go over there, let's go through the park. Manhattan, Midtown, next to a street park. Ren looked at Gwen Stacy, who was still a little childish, with a gentle smile on her face. This is already the third date for both parties. In America, if a girl goes on 3 dates with you, she is basically your girlfriend. Ren is very lucky that he traveled through time earlier. Many landmark events in the Marvel world have not yet begun. Before Spider-Man appears, intercept who Gwen first. Well, that's great. Inadvertently, he reached out and touched Gwen's little hand, and then intertwined their fingers. Gwen rolled her eyes at Ren, then happily pulled Ren into the park next to her. This is the area close to Hell's Kitchen. Here, in most parks that are supposed to charge fees, no one dares to set up ticket offices. Therefore, the nearby park has become a deserted garden with no one taking care of it. Definitely, during the day, it will also become a shortcut for nearby white-collar workers to travel through the city. After all, it really saves money. As for the night, sorry, strangers are not allowed here. After all, less than 200 meters further west is the famous Hell's Kitchen, the ugliest and darkest scar in New York City. The night here is simply more chaotic than the battlefield in the Middle East. Definitely, Ren is not afraid of Hell's Kitchen. On the contrary, Ren is still very familiar with Hell's Kitchen, and even feels like he is at home. Because Ren was originally a member of Hell's Kitchen. 3 years ago, Ren was an ordinary person on Earth, listening to music and drinking milk tea. Suddenly, he was kidnapped by the system and traveled through time. And what's even more amazing is, in the process of people traveling through time and space, he saw powerful fighting techniques with infinite power. The vast world of cultivating immortals was directly blown to pieces, and then restarted by the powerful. Ren didn't even have time to understand the function of his system before his vision went black and he completely lost consciousness. When he woke up again, Ren had become Ren Sullivan in the Marvel world. The Sullivan family is a family of body collectors under the Continental Hotel in New York. Decades ago, Ren's grandfather Legion, the founder of the Sullivan family, became the son-in-law of the Sullivan family with his handsome face and secret skills in exorcising corpses. In the following decades, Legion assassinated dozens of members of the Sullivan family. After 2 generations of inheritance, there is now the Ray Sullivan family that combines HYDRA and Western styles. When he first arrived in the Marvel world, Ren was confused. Because during the powerful battle, in order to protect Ren's soul, the system was completely damaged and lost 99% of its function. Fortunately, the system absorbed the world imprint of Luofu world. The original divine system has become a system of cultivating immortals. In other words, it is a systematic version of the Luofu world cultivation encyclopedia. As a third-generation black man with a rich family, good looks, and the ability to cultivate immortality, Ren quickly passed the period of confusion in just 2 days. Over the past 3 years, Ren's luck has been up and down, but he has finally regained his footing. But what makes Ren feel bad is, this Marvel world is not simply the Marvel movie universe, but more like a suture world that integrates many American comic movies and the like. Before that, BD became Iron Man and started the Marvel Age of Heroes. In this world, there are actually many extraordinary events happening everywhere. There's a Superman Hancock in Chicago who's in a hole. There are rumors of witches in California from time to time. Even the Continental Hotel is like a landmark, standing on the streets of Manhattan, New York. In this environment, Ren adheres to the idea of playing until the end to win, and successfully passed the most difficult first year as a novice. But it is a pity that during this year, Ren's cheap parents accidentally triggered a time bomb that was not cleaned up during a corpse collection. A very sad thing, for Ren, it can't be said to be good or bad. All in all, after that, Ren became the boss of the Sullivan family and took control of the body collection work in Manhattan and Brooklyn. In the next 2 years, Ren's metamorphosis was very complete. Ren, who has an encyclopedia system for cultivating immortals, used some tips from the Whitebone demon sect in the Luofu world to do a great job of collecting corpses in the 2 areas. At the same time, one after another, he killed 17 younger brothers who wanted to take over. Even now no one dares to care about Ren's business. Even the underworld overlords Kingpin and Continental Hotel recognized Ren's status. Rich, powerful, and good-looking. If there's anything else that makes Ren unhappy, it's that there isn't much extraordinary energy in the entire Marvel world that Ren can absorb. Yes, all kinds of spiritual energy used in cultivating immortals are extraordinary energies. In the Marvel world, behind every ray of extraordinary energy, there is an extremely terrifying master. Behind negative energies such as black magic are Dormammu, Hell Lord, Ancient Mephistopheles, etc. Behind the positive energies such as white magic are the Trinity God, the Heavenly God Realm, the Nordic God Realm, etc. Including various other extraordinary energies, they are also controlled by various dimensions such as Mephisto, the Overlord of the Universe, and even the legendary 5 Supreme Gods. This class solidification is simply more extreme than America's capitalist world. As a last resort, after sifting through his own practice encyclopedia system for a full week, Ren made up his mind and chose the Tianhe True Dharma as his fundamental method. Tianhe Zhenfa is one of the top immortal cultivation methods in the Luofu world. It not only has many advantages such as unlimited mana and solid foundation, but also has the ability to dominate the stars. Even without magic power, one can communicate with the stars by just visualizing. The power of the stars in the real world, including the essence of the sun and moon, these inactive energies of the real universe have become the only source of energy for Ren to accumulate mana. Recently, Ren has perfected his Qi training, and in order to break into the foundation, he has just set his sights on Gwen Stacy. In the Luofu world, to break into the foundation building, you need to use heavenly materials and earthly treasures to turn into foundation building objects. In this Marvel world, people can't find those special talents and treasures in the Luofu world. Therefore, practicing Renjian has become a method. The Yin-Yang Hehuan Dao, one of the treasures of the Hehuan sect, can extract the purest yin and yang qi from men and women and directly use it to build the foundation. Chapter 2. The Yin-Yang Hehuan Dao is the most top-notch and core secret of the Hehuan sect in the Luofu world. The world of cultivating immortals is actually similar to the Marvel world, with particularly serious class consolidation. Those cave heavens and paradises in the world that can produce foundation-building objects have been tightly controlled by the top sects for a long time, and they are basically never leaked to the outside. But there are always amazingly talented people in the world. The founder of the Hehuan sect, a eunuch in the secular palace, accidentally obtained the practice method and perfected the Qi practice. After decades of hard thinking and meditation, he finally created the Yin-Yang Hehuan Tao. Adhering to the Taoist philosophy of reciprocity of yin and yang, transformation of heaven and man. Once this foundation-building secret method was created, it suffered 99 and 81 thunder tribulations. It can extract the purest yin and yang qi from the bodies of men and women in the world, and it is also a growth-type foundation-building method. Use this secret method to build a foundation, even if it is just a low-grade foundation at first. As long as you can bear it and keep working hard, one day you will be able to achieve the best foundation building. Even if your cultivation reaches a higher level, this foundation-building secret method can continue to increase and consolidate your foundation. The founder of the Hehuan sect relied on a little magic. In the mundane world of Luofu, it took 138 years to sleep with a woman and a man, and finally a generation of Hehuan masters was passed down from generation to generation, and only then did the famous Hehuan sect appear. Ren's situation in this Marvel world is no better than that of the Hehuan sect's ancestor at that time. Finding something to build a foundation in this world is harder than climbing to the sky. Definitely, people will not sleep with men. Although Ren's system is a scam, it still gave Ren some benefits and gave him a novice gift package. After integrating the world mark of Luofu world, the system's novice gift package can be transformed into 3 items: Zhuqiao Golden Pill, Tianfu Yunzwen, and Chunyang Golden Bell. The 9-aperture Golden Pill is similar to the one in Fang Lao Mo. It can change qualifications, reborn, strengthen the body and increase strength, etc. It has been taken by people for a long time. The Tianfu Yunzwen is a talisman similar to a computer chip, which records thousands of runes, which can be regarded as the writing of immortality. The pure Yang Golden Bell is the only physical spiritual treasure embryo that Ren has obtained. This thing has a great origin. The system copied the core imprint of the Donghuang Bell, the top treasure in the Luofu world, and created it from the system's origin. Anchoring time and space, protecting the soul, concealing secrets, killing people with sound waves, etc., the magical effects are endless. Definitely, it needs to be complete. What the system gave him was only a spiritual treasure embryo, which could barely protect Ren's soul, and incidentally help Ren to cultivate. If you want to completely shape the Chunyang Golden Bell, you have to continue to practice it yourself. But even so, with the blessing of the pure Yang Golden Bell, Ren himself can continuously dig out and accumulate enough pure Yang energy from inside his body. Therefore, people who practice Yin Yang He Huan Dao have huge advantages. They only need to sleep with women. It can be said that since Ren established a foothold in Hell's Kitchen, he has been selecting targets for foundation building. In 2 full years, Ren initially narrowed down 3 targets. One is the female Superman Mary Ann Superman Hancock, who was supposed to be a perfect match for Hancock. But for some unknown reason, whenever the two of them get close, they both become extremely weak. A 1,000-year-old maid, she is powerful and full of pure yin energy. The key is that she has a good personality and is a top-notch good wife and mother. The second is a witch from California named Isabel. After many investigations by Ren, it was discovered that this Isabel should be the heroine in The Fairy Wife. Necromancer comes from a family, his strength is unknown, and the pure yin energy in his body is extremely spiritual. In addition, this Isabel is just starting out, and she is innocent and smart. She looks easy to deceive, and she is included in Ren's target. The third is the final Gwen Stacy. Different from Ren's expected Amazing Spider-Man, during Ren's investigation, he found that there were 3 Peter Parkers around Gwen, who were in elementary school, middle school, and college. At the same time, there are 3 families, Aunt May, and Grandma May, who are so similar that it's outrageous. 3 insects in the same frame have been realized many years in advance, but no Spider-Man has yet appeared. Under this situation, Ren decided to help Gwen become a ghost spider. If successful, its metamorphosis would be enough to give birth to the amazing pure yin energy of creation. I practiced Qi for 2 years. Ren had already consciously protected all 3 goals. Many men who want to get close to the 3 women encounter many accidents inexplicably, and are either injured or killed. It wasn't until Ren Jin now completed his Qi training that he made up his mind to capture Gwen first. Without him, Gwen is the easiest one to win. Just this year, Ren used a little bit of his ability and the influence of his connections to become Gwen's close senior during another celebrity homecoming speech. A girl who has just turned 18 and just graduated from high school is always better at handling things. If it were the female Superman Mary, or the witch Isabel. If the car turns over, Ren now can't control those 2 women, and he might even be beaten. Anyway, as long as Gwen becomes a ghost spider, it will be enough for the time being. The foundation building secret method of the Yin-Yang Hehuan Dao can ensure that you don't have to achieve success in this realm overnight. It wouldn't hurt to deal with Mary and Isabel later when they become more powerful. This led to 3 consecutive dates between Ren and Gwen. In fact, Ren has already made plans. After the date, he will find a way to join the Osborn Group and help Gwen become a ghost spider. When the time comes, you can practice the Yin-Yang Hehuan path with him and pick the foundation building fruits. Chapter 3. On the slightly deserted but not deserted park path, 18-year-old Gwen laughed loudly. Especially the Western women have excellent figures, and the 2 little rabbits are very conspicuous when they jump. Even if people have lived for 2 lifetimes, they are often fascinated by Gwen's youthful and beautiful aura, and are a little dazzled. Blonde, youthful, beautiful, hot. It has to be said that as one of Marvel's daughters of fortune, Gwen has something special about her. Most people can't resist the charm of Gwen. Ren was inexplicably grateful that his father-in-law was a policeman, otherwise he might not have been able to protect Gwen from growing up safely. The 2 were chatting and laughing, and when they reached 1/3 of the park path, it was getting dark. Ren relies on some small tricks that come with the inheritance of Yin-Yang Hehuan Tao, and he is very popular with Gwen. And just when Ren was thinking about getting some interest before doing double cultivation, a burst of noisy sound soon reached Ren's ears. Farki, are there so many ordinary people here? Price, how did you do this? Boss, is this woman a police officer? My sister, you idiot. If any police officer brings his son out to catch a drug dealer, deal with him immediately. Hey, boss, can you let me feel comfortable before you deal with it? It's so cool, Mom. The medicine is so good. Don't let the seller look down on us. The sound of cursing came from far to near. Without being reminded by Ren, Gwen quickly saw several men with guns in the distance, surrounding a woman in her 30s with a child. Ren! Don't be afraid, and don't make any noise, they won't find us. At the corner of the trail, Gwen was obviously a little scared when she saw the sudden crime scene. Ren took advantage of the situation to hold her in his arms, and the warm fragrance filled his nostrils. But Ren obviously underestimated Gwen's sense of justice. As one of the Spider-Man candidates, after the initial panic, Gwen quickly clenched her fists and had the idea of rushing out directly. Ren's balls ached slightly, and he quickly tightened his grip on Gwen and hugged her. "Gwen, don't be impulsive. Ren, they are going to kill the mother and son." "I know, but they have guns in their hands. Let's call the police and let the police handle it." "It's too late then, help them, okay?" Being held tightly in Ren's arms, Gwen actually knew that she had been impulsive before, but her innate sense of justice prevented her from sitting idly by. The two of them looked at each other, and Gwen's sapphire-like eyes were full of unbearability. At the same time, within the scope of human spiritual perception, 200 meters away, a big white man holding an ice cream was walking slowly and unconsciously. In that big white man, there was an iron-blooded evil that was difficult for ordinary people to detect. The huge memory bank quickly flashed with inspiration at this moment. Then, the name of a Marvel anti-hero appeared in Ren's mind. The Punisher, Frank Custer, a famous anti-hero in Marvel. Human weapons, decisive in killing, cruel in iron blood. It turned out to be him. So this current scene is actually the prelude to the story of Frank metamorphosis as the Punisher. It's really not that easy to be a superhero these days. Either they sacrifice their parents, uncles, or aunts, or they sacrifice their wives and children. "You are lucky to have met me, Frank." Ren muttered something in his heart, then looked at Gwen's pleading eyes and said, "For you, Gwen. Promise me you'll hide here, okay?" After saying that, Ren kissed Gwen on the forehead and then walked towards the crime scene. Behind Ren, Gwen looked at Ren's back, her eyes filled with watery touch and affection, which turned into deep love. In fact, the moment Ren turned around, Gwen already regretted it. Those bad guys have guns in their hands. But just when Gwen was about to reach out and pull Ren back. But at the moment, Ren was like a fast and deadly cheetah, walking quietly and slowly approaching more than 10 meters away. The wind blows and the tiger descends from the mountain. The sudden Ren jumped more than 10 meters in 2 or 3 leaps, and then knocked down the 2 gangsters instantly. It's just 2 gangsters, so it's not difficult. It can even be said to be extremely relaxed and freehand. After all, even if Ren doesn't use chi training and magic, his body transformed by the 9 orifices golden pill alone is enough to rival half the Hulk. "Take your children, go that way, and don't look back." After taking care of the 2 gangsters who were far away from the transaction site, Ren quickly picked up the 2 pistols on the ground. After making some adjustments, he quickly sent the rescued woman and child towards where Gwen was. "Sir, what about you?" "Ma'am, I have to communicate with the bad guys over there, otherwise they won't allow us to leave." Watch as Ren skillfully loads his pistol. The woman didn't say anything more, gave Ren a look of thanks, and quickly ran away with the child. At this time, the gangsters not far away had obviously discovered what was going on here. But just when those gangsters were cursing each other, they divided their troops and sent people over. Bang bang bang! A series of gunshots, like Death God's roll call, killed 3 people instantly. In an instant, the scene was in chaos. The gangsters first hid in panic, and then began to fight back randomly. Ren was not flustered by such a scene, and was even slightly excited. In a remote park near nightfall, like a cat catching a mouse, Ren began to kill the gang members. At this time, it was 200 meters away. Frank frowned as soon as he heard the gunshot. Immediately after hearing the direction of the source of the gunfire clearly, Frank immediately threw away the ice cream in his hand, climbed over the wall, and ran towards the center of the park. Chapter 4. In less than 2 minutes, Ren completely defeated the gangsters in an unpredictable way. He walks like a galloping horse and his body is like a raccoon cat. The bullets were fired without miss, and the gunshot killed him. After those gang members killed more than 10 people in a row, they quickly dispersed. Ren originally wasn't a murderer, so he naturally didn't pursue him to the end. However, after such an incident, the date was obviously ruined. After returning to the corner of the park path, Ren happened to see Frank, who was as wild as a liger, holding his wife and daughter with trembling hands, obviously terrified. Ren did not disturb the other party, but coughed slightly and winked at Gwen. Gwen quickly cheered and threw herself into Ren's arms. "Ren, I regretted it as soon as you turned around. Fortunately, nothing happened to you, otherwise. Otherwise, Miss Gwen, you wouldn't have a perfect boyfriend like me. Boyfriend? No, you haven't confessed your love to me yet. Confession? If you didn't say it, I would have forgotten it. That was the main purpose of the date tonight. It's a pity that something like this happened. Ren said seriously. Gwen blinked her long eyelashes and immediately faced Rena. A long kiss. Just when Ren's palm began to become a little unruly, a slightly embarrassed cough soon sounded next to him. Ren and Gwen then remembered that there seemed to be someone else next to them. Gwen was a little shy when her first kiss was seen, even in the more open environment of the West. And when people turned around and looked around without changing their expressions. Frank said slightly seriously, I'm sorry to interrupt your warm moment. I am Frank Custer. Thank you for saving my wife and daughter. Ren nodded to Frank, then smiled at the woman and child next to him. Immediately, Ren took out a business card and handed it to Frank. Just call me Ren. Just now, the Russian Bear Gang and the Center family were trading laundry detergent. Man, your wife broke their deal. You have to be careful. If you can, it's best to take your family away for a while and get out of the limelight. Ren's impression of the Punisher is pretty good. There is revenge, and the methods are sharp but not pedantic. While being extremely cruel, there is also a bottom line. Now that they have met, Ren doesn't want to miss such an opportunity to conquer the other party. However, Ren didn't act too eager. Instead, he gave the other person a business card and reminded him to give him an extra favor. Hearing Ren's words, Frank was stunned for a moment, then showed a hint of gratitude. After being discharged from the army, Frank more or less lost his vigilance. Ren's reminder made Frank realize his mistake. The reputation of the Russian Bear Gang and the Center family is not very good. If someone breaks the laundry detergent deal, they will naturally find a way to get rid of the witnesses. Frank couldn't imagine how serious the consequences would be because of his mistake. But just when Frank was about to thank him again. Not far away, outside the park, the sound of New York Police Department police cars could be heard. Immediately afterwards, a panicked figure ran into the park. From a long distance away, you could see the police uniform on the other person. Gwen, are you okay? Why don't you go home after get off work? What are you doing in a place like this? This is Hell's Kitchen. Damn it, these poisonous scum are getting more and more outrageous, and they actually chose the trading location in a busy city. As soon as the middle-aged policeman arrived, he started roaring like a barrage of cannons. Saw this scene. Frank silently put away Ren's business card and kept quiet with his wife and daughter. Only Gwen came with a helpless expression. Daddy, I'm fine. Gwen first comforted her father, then awkwardly hugged Ren's arm and whispered, Ren, I forgot to tell you, my dad is the sergeant of the new police department, so he is a little sensitive. Ren blinked and said, Wow, NYPD sergeant, 4 stars. Gwen whispered, No, 3 stars, it's the branch sergeant. Ren looked frightened and said, That's pretty cool. I cheated on his daughter. He wouldn't have taken me back to the police station and tortured me. Gwen. Being teased by Ren, Gwen quickly started beating Ren's body with small fists. At this time, George Stacy's face had become very ugly. This guy is very talented. He dared to flirt with his daughter in front of him. It looked like George Stacy was about to explode, but fortunately, a large number of police officers had entered the park at this time. 2 police detectives had already roughly surveyed the scene and came to report to George. The scene became more or less chaotic. Including Ren, 4 people began to be questioned separately by the police. After a while, it was George Stacy who used his privileges to save the 4 Rens from going to the police station for a transcript investigation. But even so, Gwen was controlled by her father and was ready to take her home directly. Ren didn't object to this, and just made a gesture to Gwen to call. Wait until Gwen turns around and heads to the car. George Stacy took the time to give Ren a hard look and drove away. Chapter 5. Ren didn't care about Gwen's departure and father-in-law George's hostility. As for Gwen, to say how deep Ren's feelings are is just nonsense. At most, it's just a little better than lust. I am an immortal death god who is destined to live forever, so why should I be so carefree? Now that the Center family has emerged, then Gwen's metamorphosis is not far away. The Center family is one of the corpse collector forces among the underground forces in New City. Decades ago, the Center family used to be the underlings of Ren's Sullivan family, and they had a bit of a romantic relationship. Ever since Ren's cheap grandfather took over the Sullivan family, the Center family chose to start their own business. Over the past few decades, there have been many wars between the Sullivan family and the Center family. However, in this Western world, Hyuxia identity is naturally excluded. More than 10 years ago, the Center family received the behind-the-scenes support of the underworld Emperor Jinbing. After taking over most of the corpse collection work in Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx, they also gradually got involved in the drug trafficking business. Even on the surface, the Center family is still a small shareholder of Osborn Company. If it hadn't been for the accidental encounter with Frank, Ren originally planned to kill the Center family himself after today's date with Gwen. But Frank's appearance made Ren change his mind. The Center family has a very bad reputation in New City. They have done a lot of things like murder, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. If Frank still wants to live a stable life with his wife, he will definitely come to Ren for help. So after Ren had dinner alone, he did not go home. Instead, he came to a private hospital near the seaside in Manhattan. New York Presbyterian Hospital is a world-renowned private hospital. When Ren first traveled through time, this hospital was still controlled by a genius surgeon named James Taylor. Later, Ren discovered that James Taylor was actually the murderer in Tang Renjia Detective 2. Moreover, James Taylor had long discovered that he had cancer, and wanted to get some ancestral inheritance from the Sullivan family. So after Ren took power in the Sullivan family, he chose to strike first. Just a genius doctor suffering from cancer. Even if the other party has an extremely huge reputation and wealth, how can it be an opponent of the Black Road family? It only took less than half a month. Then James unexpectedly suffered a complication, hit GG directly, and met God without saying a word. And Ren, in the name of James's Hyuxia wife's brother, became the sole heir of Presbyterian Hospital. Speaking of which, James can be regarded as a noble person on the road of spiritual practice. The emergence of the Presbyterian Hospital not only helped the original Ren to add a lot of money, but also stabilized the family power. And James was very considerate and built a large underground palace under the Presbyterian Hospital, which contained most of the cave that Ren wanted to build. After arriving at the chairman's office of Presbyterian Hospital, Ren told the Yangma secretary outside the door to wait for Frank's arrival. Immediately, Ren went directly to the office, past the secret passage elevator, and soon came to an underground palace. I have to say that James is really a good person. The other party found an article about the 5 elements cave construction method of the Earth Immortal way from his Hyuxia wife, and built the entire underground palace, which was very consistent with Ren's ideas. In the entire underground palace, a mountain of Bagua is built in the center, and the surrounding terrain is connected to create an abyss. At the same time, on the top of the Bagua mountain, there is a Tai Chi pattern, and a giant bronze alchemy furnace with an unknown age is placed in the center. After Ren took over this place, he carved heavenly symbols, clouds, and seals around the Bagua mountain. Then, using a lot of money in hand, he installed 8,864 spectrum receivers in the hospital above. In this way, Ren can use technological means to gather the power of infinite stars. After the power of those stars gathered together, it was injected into the Bagua mountain through the Tianfu Yunzwan. The Bagua mountain uses the power of Tai Chi on the top of the mountain to condense the essence of infinite stars into the central alchemy furnace. The fire power lingered in the alchemy furnace, and the essence of the stars turned into billowing spiritual energy. It took 2 years to accumulate. This underground palace has been shrouded in rich spiritual energy, almost turning into a paradise. It is precisely because of such a rich supply of star spiritual energy. Renke has chosen the Tianhe True Dharma, the most top-notch and most powerful one in the Luofu world, as his fundamental dharma. Otherwise, in this world where every ounce of extraordinary energy has its owner. If anyone wants to perfect the Qi training chapter of Tianhe Zhenfa in 2 years, that is simply a dream. But this time, people came to the underground palace not to practice. After completing the Qi training. Now, relying solely on the collection of corpses in Manhattan and Hell's Kitchen, as well as the financial income from the Presbyterian Hospital, are no longer enough to support Ren's continued practice. People should expand their power and income after saving for 2 years. So Ren also needs some personal talents, such as Frank. For the safety of his wife and children, Frank will definitely find trouble with the nascent family tonight. Although Frank has performed very well in many comics and movies, in reality, no one can guarantee that Frank is really the immortal protagonist. Therefore, Ren is going to use some means to ensure Frank's safety. Chapter 6. In the underground palace, on Bagua Mountain, no one touched the bronze alchemy furnace. This alchemy furnace was a top-notch weapon smuggled from the eastern countries in the past, and it had been around for at least 2,000 years. In the past 2,000 years, not only many people and forces have handled this alchemy furnace. In this process, infinite willpower accumulated on the alchemy furnace. The first time he saw this alchemy furnace, Ren knew that it was an excellent magic weapon embryo. In the Luofu world, there is the Red Dust Demon sect, and its super treasure that suppresses the mountain gate is a pill furnace called the Red Dust Heart Refining Furnace. If you want to refine the Red Dust Heart Refining Furnace, you don't need any heavenly materials or earthly treasures or exquisite means. As long as the infinite aspiration and 7 emotions and 6 desires are gathered, coupled with the endless supply of spiritual energy, and constantly nourished by it, the alchemy furnace can continue to metamorphosis. Once it is turned into a magic weapon, it has infinite power. This furnace can refining elixirs, refining weapons, controlling fire, storing and refining all kinds of energy, etc. The most important thing is that this furnace can also help people refine their body and mind, so that they will not have inner demons and keep their Taoist mind stable. Beneath this hospital, where endless life, old age, sickness and death, joys, sorrows and joys are gathered, in 2 years, this worldly heart refining furnace has reached the edge of being promoted to a magic weapon. Although the magic weapon is only the most elementary level magic weapon form, as long as it is completed, it will be enough to increase Ren's strength by a lot. At the critical moment, no one dares to use this earthly heart refining furnace casually. Come to the Red Dust Heart Refining Furnace. Ren just created a magic formula and took out a string of 36 jade-like bracelets from the mortal heart refining furnace. Each bead in this string has a natural roundness, and the light flows on it, sometimes forming strange runes. Think about it. Ren just took off a bead from this bracelet. After the bead came off the bracelet, billowing black mist suddenly appeared, and a skeleton demon jumped out from it. Its upper body was in the shape of a skeleton, and its lower body was surrounded by billowing black mist. After seeing Ren, the withered bones demon's eyes were filled with soul fire, and he knelt down very piously. Go and choose another bone demon to fill your vacancy. Roar. Upon hearing this, the withered bone demon quickly let out a roar, jumped into the air like a fish, circled, and headed towards the abyss around the Bagua mountain. As the withered bone demon flew into the abyss, there was soon a dense sound of bones colliding. If you look down from the Bagua mountain, you can see that there are densely packed soul fire bone demons in the surrounding abyss, gathering crazily. Not long. The withered bone demon quickly brought a newly formed bone demon to Ren. Said to be a bone demon, it is actually a skeleton soldier that will be generated under the nourishment of rich spiritual energy. This is the lowest level of little demon among the secret methods of Zuyan White Bone Temple. The Zuyan White Bone Temple is a top secret magical power of the demonic White Bone sect in the Luofu world. It can use the gathering of spiritual energy, death energy and demonic energy to train the bones into demons. From the bone demon, to the withered bone demon, to the white bone demon, and finally to the bone demon. The bone god and demon are 3 in 1. A string of white bone bracelets can be used to create the 12 Yuan Chen white bone gods and demons' protective magical powers that are integrated into the magic circle. This magical power can be used to protect the body for 12 Yuan Chen, and the bone god and demon can even move mountains, cover the sea, catch stars and hold the moon, which is enough to rival a true cultivator at the level of pure Yang Yuan Shen. Qi training, foundation building, earth evil spirits, Tian Gang, Yuan Shen, transcending tribulations and true immortals. They respectively correspond to the mortal limit, city level, planet level, sub-heaven father, level god father, level single universe and multi-universe levels in the American comic world. In other words, the successfully refined bone bracelet is basically a personal bodyguard of level god father. This is also a self-protection method specially selected by Ren after he raised the Red Dust Heart refining furnace. Without him, the Sullivan family that Ren belongs to is a family of black corpse collectors. In the process of refining the 12 Yuan Chen White Bone Divine Demon Protector Divine Pass, what is needed the most is the bones of people who died violently. There are just enough bones of people who died violently to gather together. After being washed away by spiritual energy, death energy, resentment, etc., the bone demon can be born. At the same time, only when enough bone monsters kill and devour each other can the withered bone monster be raised. And after countless withered bones demons have been sacrificed and refined, only one white bone spirit can be refined out of a million. The white bone demon can be refined into a real white bone god and demon by absorbing the origins of the infinite bone demon and the withered bone demon, and then combining it with the white bone demon sect's top secret method, the Zuyan White Bone Temple. 36 white bone gods and demons, combined with the qi of Tian Gang, can form the magical power of the 12 Yuan Shen white bone gods and demons to protect the law. To practice other self-protection techniques, Ren still has to try his best to collect various materials bit by bit. But these 12 Yuan Shen white bone gods and demons don't have to be so troublesome. In New York City, Manhattan, and Hell's Kitchen, a large number of bodies of dead people appear almost every day. Ren only needs to let his corpse collectors send the collected corpses through the morgue of the Presbyterian Hospital and into the abyss around Bagua Mountain. Using the spiritual energy flushing in this underground palace, it won't be a problem to have as many bone demons as you want. After the gang fight, the body collector can collect a sum of money to clean up the scene. The city government and the police can charge a sum of money for sending the body to the funeral home. After a hospital patient dies and is sent to the morgue, a sum of money can be collected. Whether it's legal or illegal. Anyway, as far as Ren is concerned, he has to take away the body and pay for it. There is this one-stop business. If people don't sacrifice to the gods and demons of the 12 Yuan Shen white bones, then they are stupid. Compared with the traditional corpse refining, cremation, burial, and sinking into the sea, this is much more convenient, faster, and more effective. In addition to the bones, the flesh and blood of the corpses can also be collected and used to sacrifice and refine the blood god knife. Help Ren develop additional magical weapon in one attack powers. Chapter 7. The 12 Yuan Shen white bone god demon and the blood god knife are both top-notch magical powers that are combined with first-rate magic weapons. It consumes less resources, is systematic, and can be promoted step by step. Even in the white bone demon sect and blood god sect in the Luofu world, those who can pass on such magical powers must be true disciples of the sect's big shot. Definitely, for today's people, the bone god demon and the blood god knife are still a bit far away. But if you just deal with a mere gangster family, the bone demon is enough. What's more, the main force against the center family is Frank. This bone bead transformed by the withered bone demon only provides Frank with a guarantee of safety. Only when Frank faces a death crisis, the bone demon will appear to protect him. As for the loyalty of these withered bone demons, I am not even more worried. The red dust heart refining furnace is the top treasure of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Once you step into the furnace, even the great gods will be stamped with the steel seal of their thoughts, and their loyalty will be engraved into the seal of the true spirit. Even if Ren's mortal heart refining furnace has just stepped onto the edge of the magic weapon, it is still useful enough. Bone demons, withered bone demons, white bone spirits, and white bone gods and demons are originally half demon, half ghost, and half puppet existences, and it is best to control them. Wait until the red dust heart refining furnace truly becomes a magic weapon. Ren can also arrange formations to expand the scope of the mortal heart refining furnace to collect the 7 emotions and 6 desires, and quickly increase the level of the mortal heart refining furnace. When the time comes, not only will he be able to control beings like the dry bone demon. After refining some balls such as the Devil's Heart Pill, he is America's president, and Ren dares to get involved and turn him into a puppet. Definitely, this is the American comic universe, and there are many extraordinary beings. People won't be that crazy either. Ren is very good at figuring out how big a bowl can last. Refining the newly selected bone demon, turning it into a new withered bone demon, and replenishing the 36 white bone beads. Ren quickly sent the bone bracelet into the alchemy furnace again. At this time, a message from Yang Ma's secretary above quickly came from the underground palace, saying that Frank had arrived. In the underground palace, Ren took a deep breath, and the true magic of Tianhe began to circulate, turning the infinite star aura into 2 swimming dragons and swallowing it into his body. Feeling the true law of Tianhe, he constantly purifies and condenses the magic power in his body. Ren also quickly took the elevator and returned to the chairman's office. Not much time. Under the leadership of Yang Ma's secretary, Frank, who looked like a lion and a tiger, came to the room with an expressionless face. Ren waved his hand to let the big Yang Ma secretary leave, and then motioned for Frank to take a seat. Facing a wild man like Frank, Ren didn't have any tricks and said straight to the point, "Frank, I know something about you. If I guess correctly, you are going to deal with the Center family, right?" Frank raised his eyebrows and said, "Yes, I won't feel at ease unless we get rid of the Center family." Ren laughed and said, "I knew that was the case, Frank, you underestimated the Center family. Also, what are you going to do about those people from the Oxian gang? Do you know who the supporter behind the Center family is? It's Kingpin. As Ren finished speaking, Frank's brows suddenly frowned. Yes, Frank felt like he was careless again. New City is the largest financial loyalty in America and even the entire world. Manhattan is the heart of New York City. Hell's Kitchen is a tumor in the heart of New York City. The gangster forces that can occupy a place in Hell's Kitchen must have various intricate relationship networks behind them. Underground forces, amidst the chaos, also have an invisible hidden rule, which is to hold grudges. Frank is neither a member of the Mafia nor an official. Even if he has the ability to kill the Center family, he will still be in various troubles that he cannot get rid of. It would be okay if Frank was just a loner. The key is that Frank's wife and children were saved by Ren and became Frank's Achilles heel. Da-da-da. In the room, the sound of Ren tapping the table easily was very clear. After Frank thought for a moment, he looked at Ren seriously and said, "Mr. Ren, do you want me to be the knife in your hand?" Ren's fingers quickly stopped and he said, "Yes, it's not entirely right. In fact, I just gave you a reasonable identity and remuneration, and you took action to work for me. If you are willing to be loyal, I will definitely not abandon my own people, right? I don't think you are a pure and righteous idealist, Frank." Why does Ren want to conquer Frank? Because Frank is not a superhero in the pure sense. On the contrary, if there is no bottom line, if Frank is really blackened, he might become a supervillain. Well, the kind that can slaughter the entire universe. Frank has ability, but at the same time he doesn't have that kind of moral obsessiveness. Only people like this can be useful and dare to use them. If it were Spider-Man, Captain America and the like, Ren would never even look at it. It concerns the safety of his wife and children. Just as Ren thought, Frank didn't think about it for too long and quickly said decisively, "Boss, I need a job that is acceptable in society, an excuse to go on a killing spree, and a complete set of operational equipment." Ren immediately laughed and said, "No problem, now you are the security director of Presbyterian Hospital." At the same time, as the guard captain of the oldest body collector family in New City, your boss was assassinated by the Center family and the Russian Bear Gang this evening. You can vent your anger to your heart's content. You can use the weapons and manpower of the Sullivan family at will. This is your right. By the way, take this bone bead with you. This is my unique protective object. It will keep you safe. The results on the first day are very important. I beg you readers to save them, support me with flowers, and comment. There seem to be very few people writing about Marvel recently, and the website has not seen much development in terms of good Marvel fanfics. I hope readers will support me a lot. Chapter 8. Ren's trust in Frank is not without reason. First, if Frank wants to protect his wife and children, he must join a force, and there is no other choice. And Frank himself is not a person with much desire for power. Both of them, the subordinates of the Sullivan family, have long been implanted with the concept of die-hard loyalty by Ren using ecstasy. As for whether Frank will contact the authorities secretly, people are even less worried. Frank is not a fool, and his character is destined not to go along with the authorities. The most important point. Among the 13 largest and most powerful gangs in Hell's Kitchen, the Sullivan family, where Ren belongs, is considered the purest and harmless one. The Sullivan family sticks to their jobs as body collectors and scavengers, and almost never do anything extra. Especially starting with Ren's cheap grandfather. After the Sullivan family saved money, they sold land, hoarded land, and at most opened a few nightclubs, bars, etc., which was very low-key. As early as when Ren's cheap parents were still alive, the Sullivan family even wanted to transform and break away from the gang several times. Even Daredevil Matt Murdock served as a lawyer to defend the Sullivan family. Compared to other underground elements who do all kinds of evil, the Sullivan family is actually more like a grey group of people walking between black and white. For a person like Frank who has a bottom line, even if he has no choice but to seek refuge with a force, he will not have any other better choice. Wait until Frank leaves. Ren didn't have much emotional fluctuations, and soon returned to the underground palace again to continue his practice. Perfection in Qi training does not mean that one cannot make progress. Tianhe Zhenfa is a very magical technique. Even after being stuck in the realm, Tianhe Zhenfa can still absorb more spiritual energy during the constant operation, purifying and condensing the mana in the body without limit. At the same time, this continuous purification and condensation will also consolidate and increase Ren's potential and foundation. Although the big events in the American comic world have not yet begun, Ren does not want to miss every minute of strengthening himself. The world of American comics is in trouble. People don't want to turn into ashes in a sudden accident because of lack of strength. Especially the purple sweet potato essence that will definitely visit the Earth in the future. Ren, who has already regarded the entire Earth as his own domain, has even thought about killing the other party in the universe before the other party visits the Earth. And all of this requires extremely strong cultivation and strength to guarantee. Just when Ren went to the underground palace to continue his practice. At the moment, Frank, taking the address given by Ren, also came to a very lively bar. After showing the proof given by Ren, Frank was soon led by a small boss in the bar and entered a hidden secret room inside the bar. To be precise, this is a hidden warehouse. In this warehouse, there are a large number of weapons and equipment from M1911 to Barrett and Gatling levels. In a corner of the warehouse, Frank even saw the most advanced shoulder-mounted anti-tank rocket launcher in America's army. Seeing this scene, even a battle-hardened man like Frank couldn't help but twitch the corners of his eyes. It's outrageous. This can equip a battalion of combat troops. Are today's mafia gangs so vicious? Seeing Frank in a daze, the little leader also smiled and said, "How about it, buddy, is this shocking enough? Our Sullivan family is one of the 13 black gangs. Even though it has been in decline recently, it is still no worse than any other gang. Boss trusts you very much and has given you the highest authority. Whatever you need, you're welcome." Frank glanced at the little leader in surprise, as if he didn't expect that these gangsters and thugs actually respected Ren so much, even a little bit in admiration, in terms of language. This little leader's name is Owen. He is a typical Celtic white man and is very smart. After seeing Frank's surprised expression, Owen quickly said, "Man, don't be so surprised. Since you are someone valued by Boss, I might as well tell you secretly that Boss is a very magical person with extraordinary power. You will know after getting along for a long time. If you do your job well, Boss's rewards will be far beyond your imagination." Owen's words did not cause Frank to have much emotional fluctuation. After just thinking for a moment, Frank's eyes quickly turned to the weapons in the warehouse. After a while, Owen's jaw almost dropped to the ground when he looked at Frank, who was almost armed to the teeth, and the military bag in his hand that could barely be closed. "Farkey, man, do you know what you're doing? We are just going to deal with a small and dirty gangster family, not to go to Iraq. Damn it, don't go that way, you're going to scare the customers, and I don't want to be in the New York Daily News tomorrow. Go through the back door, I've got people ready for mobile vehicles." 40 minutes later, Brooklyn, near a house near the Hudson River. A minivan pulled over to the curb. In the carriage, on the specially modified 2 rows of seats, 7 or 8 gunmen all looked carefully at Frank, who was concentrating with his eyes closed. In the end, it was Irving who spoke and said, "Man, the target position has been reached. You will be the main one tonight." Just when Owen was saying something, Frank opened his eyes suddenly, causing Owen to shut up instantly as if he was choked by something. Frank checked his equipment and said coldly, "I will be the main attacker. The 7 of you will form a team and cooperate with firepower to contain the enemy on the outside. I will take care of the people inside. In 20 minutes, let the sweeper clean up the situation. We will evacuate within 30 minutes. In 1 hour, all operations will be over. The first day results of a new book are really important. I would like to say hello to all the readers, please collect them, ask for flowers, and ask for evaluation votes." Chapter 9. As a former top CIA agent and retired Marine Corps instructor, in his past career, Frank has won the Medal of Honor, Navy Cross, 3 Silver Stars, and 4 Purple Hearts through combat. Even Nick Fury, that old fox, calls Frank a level 10 agent, the highest level a human can achieve in individual combat. Frank may not be good at making money. At the very least, if Frank didn't have a huge retirement commission, he might not even be able to take care of his wife and children. Otherwise, he wouldn't be taking his wife and children to play in a deserted park. But if it comes to fighting and killing, Frank can definitely say that he is definitely an expert. No, he should be a master. A villa with an area of approximately 800 square meters, 3 floors, and possibly a basement. After Owen took out the architectural drawings of the villa, Frank just glanced casually and arranged the positions and tasks of the 7 gunmen. Frank casually took out 4 or 5 offensive grenades from the bag and threw them into the courtyard of the villa without looking. There was a distant roar of fire. Frank had already rushed into the villa courtyard like a leopard. Ta 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 ta. Without any hesitation, after Frank entered the villa yard, the M249 squad machine gun in his hand began to fire wildly. This kind of ferocious firepower that conventional soldiers need to use while lying on the ground has extremely powerful lethality. The machine gun roared violently. The gunmen of the Center family who were not killed by the grenade immediately ran out of the villa yard in a panic like chickens that had been forced into a chicken coop by a weasel. 4 grenades, plus a squad machine gun. Most of the escape routes were almost blocked, and the remaining breaches were guarded by 7 gunmen outside. These 7 gunmen looked at their old rivals running away like little chickens. There is no need for any evasion or defense at all, just instinctively shoot along the ambush breach. Then all the chickens fell into a pool of blood. The whole operation went smoothly, almost silkier than the boss's crane cloak. The first half of the action took less than 2 minutes. The most strict and dangerous front yard guard among the Center family has been completely eliminated. Wait until the gunfire in the yard ends. The 7 ambushed gunmen were still in a daze. Frank's cold and rough voice came over the intercom. Owen, the guards in the front yard have been cleared and we are ready to enter the villa. We can start the second step of the plan. Along with a slight hissing sound, the intercom quickly stopped. After a moment of shock, Owen quickly came to his senses and roared at the 7 gunmen, "What the hell are you still doing? Didn't you hear what Minister Frank said? Go to the second ambush point immediately." Among the gangs, sometimes it is actually very simple. Whoever has the ability is the boss. Now Frank is the kind of guy who hangs himself to the sky. Owen's ability to become the little boss of the Sullivan family relies on his cleverness. After seeing Frank's strength, the guy he originally talked about instantly became a minister. But Frank doesn't know this. After clearing out the guarding gunmen in the villa yard, Frank threw away the squad machine gun, picked up an M4 carbine, and quickly looked inside the villa. Cut off the power, break through the door with bullets, throw in grenades, dodge with your back against the wall, and roll in tactically. A series of military attack tactics, for Frank, are as standard as textbooks. After entering the villa, there was another burst of gunfire. Those so-called elite gangsters were as ridiculous as children in front of Frank, and all their counterattacks could not even scratch Frank's hair. After about 3 minutes of carbine howls, the hall quickly became quiet. At the top of the stairs, Frank used a dagger to help a seriously injured gunman completely calm down. Then he inserted the dagger back into the side of his military boot and fished out a Remington shotgun from his back. Accompanied by Frank's precise technique, the flash bomb hit the corner and rolled like a ball on the second floor. What followed was bursts of screams. At this time, Frank didn't know when he had put on the ENVG night vision device, and stepped into the second floor as if he were going home. The dagger seals the throat, the gun butt hits the person, and one hand twists the person's neck. Frank's series of murderous actions were as easy as R.T. Mart's executioner who has been killing fish for 10 years. Wait until someone gradually regains their blurred vision and wants to fight back. What came his way was a shotgun bullet thicker than a thumb. The sound of a shotgun is rougher than that of a powerful or carbine, but it is also powerful enough. Coupled with Frank's dangerous instincts that he has developed in the battlefield all the time, whenever someone attempts a sneak attack, he can easily pull out his pistol and strike back with a lightning bolt. In 5 minutes, the battle on the second floor was over. Frank rushed into the third floor with quick yet light movements. The third floor is where the head of the Center family rests, and there are no gunmen guarding it anymore. But unexpectedly, there was no one in the bedrooms. A minute and a half later, behind a bookcase in the master bedroom on the third floor, Frank discovered an elevator that led directly to the underground. After thinking about it, Frank did not take the elevator directly down. Instead, he installed 2 time bombs in the elevator, which were set to explode in 30 seconds. Then Frank felt very relaxed and pressed the elevator down button. Standing next to the elevator entrance on the third floor, Frank closed his eyes to adjust his breathing, and quickly pressed bullets one after another into the Remington's magazine with his fingers. Boom! After a violent shaking and explosion, a wailing sound came from below the elevator passage. Frank turned around and used the nail gun to pull out a fixed rope. He pulled the nail gun and descended quickly. After passing through a burst of heat and thick smoke, he came to a solid underground chamber. Fake, what the hell? Chapter 10. After entering the underground secret room, what appeared in Frank's sight was not the bodies of Howard Center's family, but a scalp-numbing monster. This monster has a human-like body, but its limbs are long and gibbon-like. However, there is no hair on this monster's body. Its skin is as smooth and dark as a rhinoceros. It also has nails like steel daggers and a mouth full of violent fangs. When Frank saw the monster's scarlet eyes, a fierce and clever cold light had already appeared a few feet in front of Frank's neck. Even with Frank's dangerous intuition and clever skills, he could only hide for a moment and rolled to the side in embarrassment. Boom! Fortunately, even when facing monsters, Frank's fighting instinct remains the same. Even while rolling, Frank fought back as hard as he could and hit the monster at close range. The Remington M870 shotgun is extremely powerful. Even if an elephant is hit at close range, it will be seriously injured on the spot. The huge impact and fierce killing power sent the monster flying 3 meters away. But what shocked Frank was, even though the monster was hit in the cavity at close range and its chest was shattered, it still had extremely powerful mobility. In fact, as if the other party had not received any harm, he stood up and pounced again. Damn monster BD, boom! 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 Frank is not a hesitation kind of person. When he saw that the monster was not dead, he went up and gave it a violent beating. Facts have proved that before trolls, all living beings are indeed equal, even monsters are no exception. After more than 10 seconds, the lights in the basement flickered on and off, and a large piece of furniture was in tatters. Frank held the large spray gun and looked fiercely at a room deep in the secret room. On the door of that room, there was a special glass window, and behind it reflected a ferocious face with an ugly expression. It was none other than Howard Center of the Center family. Fake, who are you? Howard's dignified roar came from the loudspeaker outside the door. Frank looked paralyzed and had no intention of answering. He raised his hand and hit the window. It's a pity that the door and windows of that room are specially customized and have bulletproof function. But even so, Howard was very angry. Damn BD, you leave now, I can still pretend that nothing happened. Hey, what do you want to do? Don't force me, fake, sizzle. Along with a burst of fire, the loudspeaker outside the room was blasted. No matter how silently Howard roared behind the door, Frank didn't pay any attention to it. He took out an electronic explosive bomb from behind and prepared to stick it directly on the door. This is due to the need to kill them all without leaving any harm behind. See Frank's ruthless action style. Howard's face behind the door was gloomy, and he no longer roared. His whole person exuded a gloomy and low expression, and then he fiercely slapped a button inside the door. After doing all this, Howard stopped saying anything and just looked at Frank coldly through the window. When Frank approached the door and planted the electronic blast bomb, Howard was very abrupt and started writing words on the glass window. Everyone must die. Howard's calmness and gloominess in the room gave Frank an uneasy feeling. However, after Frank glanced at the other party, he was still very determined and activated the bomb. Immediately, Frank turned around and left without even looking. As a top-notch soldier who had conducted countless offensive operations, Frank knew very well that after the electronic bomb detonated, Howard in the room would never survive. Boom! After 1 minute, Frank came to the courtyard of the villa, and there was a tremor and roar from the underground inside the villa. But just when Frank was about to leave, a creepy feeling made Frank's whole body freeze for a moment. When Frank reacted, he suddenly discovered that tunnels were opening from the 4 corners of the yard. Disturbing auras continued to come from the tunnel. Immediately afterwards, with a noise like the friction of glass, dozens of monsters rushed out of the tunnel on all fours. The speed of these monsters is extremely fast, far beyond that of ordinary people, comparable to tigers and leopards. Moreover, even if Frank had 10 hands, he couldn't defeat such a number of monsters. Farkey! Frank cursed lowly and instinctively pulled the trigger, but there was an empty sound. You definitely won't be able to get out if you run. There are also monsters blocking you on both sides of the villa's gate. Frank's scalp was numb, but he was still very brave. He pulled out the dagger and made a defensive counterattack. This kind of monster is far superior to ordinary people in terms of strength, speed, and vitality. Frank doesn't know if he can escape, but as a top human weapon, Frank is not ready to give up. And just when Frank was about to risk his life, Frank felt a stinging and burning sensation in his neck, but he saw a white bone bead break away, roll in the air, billowing black smoke, and turn into a skeleton demon. Is this the bead that boss gave him before? What the hell is this? Just when Frank was in a daze, the teeth of the withered bone demon clicked, as if taunting those black-skinned and sharp-clawed monsters. But what shocked Frank was that after the withered bone demon appeared, those monsters were like weak beings in the animal kingdom that had encountered natural enemies. They collapsed on the ground and shivered. Immediately afterwards, the withered bones demon flew into the air, and billowing black smoke enveloped those monsters. The sound of chewing came from the black mist. Even a tough guy like Frank, a liger and a tiger, couldn't help but have a layer of cold sweat break out on his back. For no reason, Frank remembered the words of Owen, the gang leader in the bar. Boss is a very magical person with extraordinary power. Frank looked solemnly at the skeletal demon that occasionally flashed in the billowing black fog. His heart became heavier and he didn't know what he was thinking. This thing should be the so-called extraordinary power that Owen mentioned. It's extraordinary, but it still feels a bit evil. My boss, who looks gentle, handsome, tall, sunny, friendly, and majestic, could be the legendary necromancer or something. Should I go to church for Mass this Saturday? Holy light, no, God will definitely bless me. Chapter 11. The operation to destroy the Center family went beyond Frank's plan, but not completely. The entire operation was finally completed within an hour. But the monster with black skin and sharp claws, as well as the beads in his hand that could turn into a bone demon, made Frank feel uneasy. Fortunately, an hour later, Frank, led by the little boss Owen, came from the underground parking lot of the Presbyterian Hospital to a hidden underground palace building and met Ren. This is a practice place that Ren expanded on the original underground palace after taking over the Presbyterian Hospital. The place where magic weapons and bone demons are cultivated is too evil and is not suitable for practice. So after setting aside a forbidden area, Ren also built a special practice place with a better environment and more suitable for living and practicing. This is an environment similar to a dojo, more like the base of a pagoda. The entire dojo is also in the shape of Bagua, connected to the forbidden area behind, like the front half of a gourd. The moon gate that is connected to the forbidden area behind is shaped like a Tai Chi circle. On the moon gate, there are densely inlaid jade stones. Each jade stone is engraved with heavenly symbols and seals, forming a formation that absorbs the rolling star aura of the forbidden area into the dojo. At the same time, there are special restrictions on the moon gate. Without permission, even the Hulk may not be able to break into the restricted area behind. After Frank and the little boss Owen arrived, Ren quickly finished his training, got up from the futon on the high platform of the dojo, and led the two of them to a room similar to a living room. In this room, there are exquisite rockeries and flowing water, as well as a quiet pond with lotus flowers. The clear flowing water surrounds the rockery and the small canals at the foot, and merges into the quiet pool, gathering white mist. This water is spiritual water that has been nourished by the spiritual energy of the stars. That lotus is a rare spiritual plant specially cultivated by people. Mountains, rivers, clear springs, and a collection of spiritual plants form a unique feng shui pattern that can calm the mind and nourish the spirit. It's a pity that there are still 2 spiritual fish missing in the quiet pool. Otherwise, the still water creature, this feng shui bureau, can be fully activated, and its effectiveness will be increased several times. But even so, Frank was also shocked by the unity of nature and man that is unique to Eastern Taoism. Boss, is there any magic applied here? I feel like here, my originally manic and bloodthirsty mind has become extremely peaceful and comfortable. Frank was not the kind of person to be coy and asked his question directly. At the same time, this is undoubtedly a test for Ren. All I can say is that this kind of temptation is too rough. But for a typical American tough guy like Frank, this is probably the limit. This is my temporary cave in the city center. Well, you can understand it as a research institute with a living environment. And the power I practice is not magic, but Taoism. In this cave, there is aura, which is the extraordinary natural energy that you know is permeated. After being arranged, a special magnetic field is formed, which can calm people's minds and nourish their wisdom. Ren quickly seated the two of them and made tea with ease, showing a very noble manner. After a while, a pot of spiritual tea was brewed. Owen had been here once before. After seeing the spiritual tea in front of him, his whole body suddenly showed obvious joy and expectation, and he sipped the tea carefully. In fact, this spiritual tea is not really a treasure. After all, it only took a little more than a year to build Ren's dojo. The so-called spiritual tea is nothing more than spiritual energy infused into water. After being brewed, ordinary people drinking it can remove certain hidden wounds and restore sub-healthy people to a healthy and full state. But even so, for a gangster like Owen, it is very precious and magical. When Frank saw this, he was also slightly curious. After tasting it, he finished it in one gulp. "Boss, to be honest, this water is a bit bitter and not very tasty. It's better to have some whiskey. If that doesn't work, rum or vodka will also work." Hearing Frank's words, Ren also had a dark look on his face. "Mate, you know that expecting these barbarians to enjoy the tea ceremony life is a fool's errand." Ren glanced at Frank with disdain and said, "Wild boar can't eat fine chaff, let's wait for the spiritual energy in the tea to develop." Ren sipped the tea calmly. Even Owen, sipping the tea bit by bit, looked at Frank with disdain. Frank was just about to say something when the spiritual energy in the tea began to spread out, as if there was a thin and dense flow of warmth, full of vitality, repairing the endless hidden wounds in Frank's body. This feeling is simply more comfortable than letting a girl do a spa in a hot spring. A full 5 minutes. The spiritual energy in the tea has finished exerting its effect, and Frank's face also shows a feeling of unfinished content. After a pause, Frank said shamelessly, "Boss, you are right, I am a wild boar, give me some more of that bitter water." "No, tea." Vulgar and barbaric, but capable. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't have a capable general at his command, no one would even look at a rough guy like Frank. "Hey, in the early days of starting a business, you can only make do with it." Ren drank the tea calmly, pointed to the teapot and said, "If you want to drink, pour it yourself." Ren doesn't mind a certain degree of training for his people, as long as they work well and remain loyal. In this disguised world of the Dharma ending age, if people want to practice and move to a higher realm, they need a lot of helpers to help them expand their power, gather wealth, research technology, etc. Ren understood this as early as the beginning of his practice. The gods, demons, etc. in the Marvel world are absolutely unreliable. However, all kinds of black technology, biotechnology, etc. in this world can help you create a lot of resources to climb the immortal road. In this case, it is very useful to train a general like Frank. And while Ren was sipping tea, Frank was not polite at all. He drank 3 cups of spiritual tea in a row, and then he was somewhat satisfied and said, "Boss, do you know about those black-skinned and sharp-clawed monsters in the Center family's villa tonight? Also, the bead you gave me, boss, seems to be..." Ren interrupted the other party directly and said, "It's a ghoul." Chapter 12. The Marvel world is originally a very grand, vast, and dangerous world. After stitching together many movie worlds that even Ren can't name, this world naturally becomes more complex and dangerous. It can be said that in such a general environment, if every power that can rise does not have unique skills or means, even if it is prosperous for a while, it will eventually be swallowed up. Especially among the underground forces, no one knows what weird things are hidden. To put it more vividly, the underground forces in this world are actually a dark world hidden under the ordinary modern world. Before Ren's cheap grandfather came to America, the Sullivan family in New York City relied on the skill of summoning the undead that they learned from nowhere to be able to summon ghouls, and they have just become a family of corpse collectors in New York City. And when Ren's cheap grandfather arrived, he took over the Magpie's Nest and replaced the Sullivan family. Ren's cheap ancestor had the secret technique of exorcising and refining corpses, and did not like the so-called summoning of the undead. After relaxing the supervision of his subordinates, the Nascent family collected 2 ghouls. Over the past few decades, the Nascent family had somehow managed to cultivate new ghouls. Only then did the Center family establish a new branch. If it weren't for the fact that the Center family was still relatively weak, and with the arrival of Ren, the Sullivan family might have been completely replaced by the Center family. So Ren still knows a little bit about the Center family. After Ren's explanation, Frank's whole person also became a little dignified and serious. Frank had done well in America's army before, but he didn't have any connections, or a high-level position or rank. Naturally, he didn't have access to the extraordinary truth of the other world. Now that he knows this, Frank feels very complicated. Those ghouls, in terms of combat power alone, seem to Frank to be very powerful. His strength and speed are more than 3 times that of ordinary people, and his immortality ability is even more abnormal. Even if those ghouls don't have much intelligence, Frank can only deal with 3 or 5 ghouls at most without enough preparation and firepower coverage. No matter how much, it would be hard for Frank to handle it. In Ren's words, those ghouls are the most insignificant cannon fodder among extraordinary powers. Although it is said that human beings' strengths lie in their wisdom and tools. But honestly speaking, Frank really longs for this extraordinary power. Think of this. Frank quickly took off the bone beads hanging around his neck and said, "Boss, is this your, pet? Or a summoned object?" Frank seems like a rough guy. But in fact, being able to survive difficult and dangerous missions again and again, Frank can be considered a rough and tumble person. After learning the extraordinary truth about the other world, plus the 2 favors given by Ren, Frank has made up his mind to devote himself to Ren. Ren was satisfied with Frank's performance. Immediately, Ren said, "This is the Withered Bone Demon. It is a kind of magical weapon that combines with the body protection magical power that I refined with a secret method." Frank? Damn, barbarians are barbarians, they are illiterate. Ren's heart ached, but he still explained, "You can think of this thing as a kind of intelligent mechanical equipment that you can carry with you to protect your own safety. Tonight you annihilated the Center family. Since you submitted a petition, it can also be considered as a meritorious service, so I will give it to you." After hearing Ren's words, Frank was overjoyed. Then under Owen's envious gaze, Frank hung the bone bead around his neck again, and then began to drink tea happily without saying a word. It's a bit bitter, but it feels so good after drinking it. Frank had a military demeanor, and after learning what he wanted to know, he was very silent. At the same time, Frank also knows that if he wants to get more, he must do more things to let the boss see more of his loyalty and role. Soldiers take obedience as their bounden duty, and this is what they should do most. It is not feasible to be arrogant and ask for rewards. Seeing this, Ren nodded in his mind and said, "Frank, now you are the operational guard captain of the Sullivan family, and you are also the security director of the Presbyterian Hospital. I need you to perform your duties as soon as possible, and at the same time recruit a group of people who can satisfy me." Team. "Okay, boss." Frank agreed decisively, and then asked, "Boss, how many people will you recruit? Are there any regulations?" Ren raised his eyebrows and said, "We have tentatively decided on 200 people, and we need to be elite. You can train the rest yourself in the later stage. The operational troops cannot rely entirely on external recruitment. If necessary, we will establish our own training base later." After receiving Ren's instruction, Frank expressed his understanding and did not continue to ask further questions, remaining silent. And after completely conquering Frank, Ren looked at Owen and said, "Owen, have you brought the harvest of this operation?" When the boss asked, Owen did not dare to neglect, and quickly took out a stack of documents from the backpack behind him. Immediately, Irving said honestly, "Boss, this is the Osborn share authorization letter you want. The Center family has a total of 2.3% of the shares in Osborn Company. After being processed by the scavenger, it can be transferred to boss's name at any time. At the same time, the Center family has 12 bars, 3 clubs and a casino in New York City, including a lot of cash, diamonds, channels, etc. The scavengers are already processing it as soon as possible. In addition, the scavenger discovered some problems when handling the Center family's property." Ren's eyes narrowed slightly and he said, "What's the problem?" Owen didn't dare to raise his head and said, "Boss, it's about the deal at Poro Park this evening." Ren raised his eyebrows and said, "The Russian Bear Gang." Owen shook his head, becoming more and more nervous, and said, "No, the Russian Bear Gang is the buyer in the transaction. The transaction has not been completed. After we release the news about cleaning up the door, the Russian Bear Gang will not fall out with us because of a few lives. The real trouble is that the shipment is worth more than $200 million, and the owner is the Irish gang. Howard Center is helping them ship the goods. And the whole Hell's Kitchen knows that the Irish gang is Kingpin's lackey, the most arrogant and the least disciplined. For that batch of goods, the other party will definitely make a fuss." A flash of light flashed in Ren's eyes, and he said coldly, "Then call them back and let them know who is the father." Chapter 13. In the underground world, the lower you go, the more chaotic it is without any rules. But once one's status reaches a certain level, the benefits brought by a large family and business will be much restrained. For example, Kingpin, as the largest underworld emperor on the east coast of the entire beautiful country. Under normal circumstances, as long as the other party's fundamental interests are not touched, the other party will not go crazy and start a full-scale war. At most, the other party would just send out a few killers to do something secretly. What's more, this wave wiped out the Center family. Ren has a very good excuse and reputation. As the boss of the corpse collector, it is not too much to clean up the family by being assassinated by his former subordinate. As for the white goods worth $200 million seized from the Center family, at best, these white goods can only be traced to the Irish gang. Kingpin could only suffer the loss in silence. After all, in Hell's Kitchen, the share of resources in the underworld has been divided for a long time. Kingpin used the Irish gang to sell goods like crazy. Originally, it was a matter of eating more and occupying more. It was impossible to say it openly. Otherwise, it would anger everyone and make Kingpin's position unstable. And as long as Jin Bin's forces can't take action openly, the Irish gang is nothing to be afraid of. He wasn't afraid before, but now that he has a general like Frank, Ren won't have to worry anymore. The next day, Frank took the rights account given by Ren and began to recruit people. As a former chief instructor of the Marine Corps, recruiting 200 elite soldiers was not difficult for Frank. After all, everyone in the world knows that America's retired soldier knows nothing but killing. With Frank's connections and prestige, even if he only operates around Niue, he will soon be able to help Ren assemble a very elite mobile escort team. At this time, Ren came to the Osborn Group under the leadership of the lawyer from the legal department of Presbyterian Hospital. The Osborn Group at the beginning of the 21st century still had very close ties with the military. But at the moment the Osborn Group, as Norman Osborn's family genetic disease began to become more and more obvious, the entire group also began to decline. But even so, the entire Osborn Group is still a super company with a market value of tens of billions. A 2.3% stake in Osborn Group is worth more than $600 million. Even if he is placed on the board of directors of Osborn Group, he is still considered a medium-sized shareholder. So when Ren came to the Osborn Group, Norman Osborn personally received Ren in an extremely spacious and luxurious office. Norman Osborn, who is slightly tall and thin, has prominent cheekbones due to his illness, but even if he looks bad, his eyes like falcon are still extremely sharp. The body is dry and the spirit is strong, and the energy is upright and innocent. One can observe the spirit of Norman Osborn by looking at the energy. It can be seen that Norman Osborn at the moment has not yet run out of energy and has to forcibly inject physical medicine to give birth to inner demons. In other words, Norman Osborn at this time has not yet become the Green Goblin. But judging from his emaciated posture, it should be soon. Just as Ren was sizing up Norman Osborn, the other man was also observing Ren. Early this morning, Norman Osborn learned from his secretary that the group shares that originally belonged to the Center family had been transferred to the Sullivan family. Norman Osborn also heard about the internal changes and struggles in the Hell's Kitchen body collector family. But Norman Osborn didn't care about those things in the underground world. Compared to underground fighting, Norman Osborn is more concerned about whether the young heir of the Sullivan family will hinder his plans after becoming a shareholder of the Osborn Group. Due to the difficulty in researching and developing physique-strengthening agents, no results were produced for decades. Today's Norman Osborn is actually not in a good situation within the group. The military requires results to appear as soon as possible, otherwise there is a high probability that there will be massive cuts in military orders. Shareholders within the group expressed a lot of opposition and wanted to cancel many research projects. If this new shareholder also stands on the opposite side of him, then his situation will be even worse. Ren Sullivan, right? At my age, can I call you Ren? Definitely, Mr. Osborn, this is my honor. In fact, I have always admired Mr. Osborn, especially Mr. Osborn's report in the magazine Evolutionary Applications, which had a great impact on my studies in college. Help. Haha, that's all happened a long time ago. Call me Norman to make me appear closer. In fact, I also have a good relationship with the former head of the Sullivan family, your father. Meeting is just a business exchange. For Osborn Group, Ren has a complete storage plan. However, if you want to capture the Osborn Group, you need to wait until Norman Osborn becomes the Green Goblin or even be sanctioned by Spider-Man before you can take action. Definitely, before this, it would also be good to have a good relationship with Norman Osborn and make some arrangements in the Osborn Group in advance. Norman Osborn, on the other hand, urgently needs to win over allies in the board of directors to support his research plan. Therefore, the two foxes of file size hit it off immediately and chatted very well. After a simple test, Norman Osborn has determined that Ren is someone he can win over. Therefore, Norman Osborn was extremely enthusiastic about Ren's attitude. He spent more than 2 hours introducing Ren to many confidential research projects within the company. However, as the chairman of a group worth nearly $100 billion, Norman Osborn is very pressed for time. After explaining some things to the hot blonde secretary next to him, Norman Osborn quickly got into work mode. Ren, on the other hand, started to visit the Osborn Group under the leadership of the other party's hot secretary. Chapter 14. Superbiological groups with a market value of tens of billions were still rare at the beginning of the 21st century. Even the Stark Group, the most popular star arms group in America today, will not surpass the Osborn Group by much. But there is no doubt that both Stark Group and Osborn Group are top-quality industries. In terms of group potential, as well as substantial connections and influence. This kind of arms technology company is much stronger than those so-called internet companies, pharmaceutical companies, and the like. To put it another way, companies like Stark Group and Osborn Group are seizing the present. Led by the hot secretary, Ren spent more than an hour visiting many Osborn Group's research departments. It must be said that the Osborn Group is worthy of being an enduring supervillain concentration camp in the Marvel world. It's just an hour. Ren has already met a series of supervillains such as Green Goblin Norman Osborn, Dr. Octopus Otto Gunter Octavius, Evil Dead Roderick Kinless, Electroman Max Verdian, etc. This is part of the supervillains produced by Osborn. All we can say is that this Osborn Group probably really has bad feng shui. It's approaching noon. Ren finally stopped the hot secretary and said, "Ms. Marlena, I heard that Professor Connors of New York University accepted the group's capital injection and conducted experimental research in the company building. To be honest, I admire Professor Connors's achievements in reptilian biology and genetics. When I was in college, I also studied related subjects. I wonder if I can visit Professor Connors's laboratory. Everyone likes to hear good words, and it doesn't take much effort anyway. It's just a matter of words." Ren's words cheered up the hot secretary who had been seducing Ren but failed. The hot secretary had already received the hint when she came out of Norman Osborn's office. Win over the people Norman Osborn cares about. The hot secretary has done this kind of thing a lot and is very skilled at it. Originally, the hot secretary thought that Ren was a young man and that she could use her beauty trap to get him. Unexpectedly, Ren is a perfect scientific straight man. Originally, the hot secretary was ready to give up this extra income. Unexpectedly, at this last moment, she found the other person's sexual interest. Okay, maybe it's just interest. Reptile biology and genetic technology, oh, man, you don't understand how good women are. Definitely. The hot secretary had a lot of activity in her heart, but her face was extremely enthusiastic, and said, "Director Ren, the chairman has told you that you can visit any department of Osborn Group. In fact, this morning Professor Connors authorized New York University freshmen to visit. I originally planned to take you there after lunch and the freshman tour. Able to become Norman Osborn's secretary. This very hot Ms. Marlena is also very good at handling guests." Ignoring some of the subtexts in Marlena's words, Ren smiled gracefully and said, "It doesn't matter, it will be more lively if there are more people. Ms. Marlena, why don't we go there now? Although I would also like to spend more time with Ms. Marlena, I still have a lot of things to do in the afternoon. If not for the freshman class at NYU visiting. Ren really may not choose to come to Osborn Group to accept shares today. As early as 2 weeks ago, after receiving the news from his little girlfriend Gwen, Ren had been preparing for this incident for a long time. In this perverted suture world, there are 3 Peter Parkers alone. If things are left to their own devices, who knows which one will become Spider-Man, and who knows if there will eventually be a ghost spider. It's better to help yourself with this kind of thing. The appearance of Ghost Spider-Gwen is related to his subsequent realm breakthrough and foundation building practice. If you miss Ghost Spider to build your own foundation, you can only find the witch Isabel from The Fairy Wife or the female Superman Mary from Superman Hancock. In the Chi training realm, it is a bit difficult to control these 2 people, and it is easy to overturn. So it's best not to have any accidents. Just as thoughts were rolling in Ren's mind, under the leadership of Marlena, Ren quickly arrived at the Osborn Group's Biological Research and Experimental Department. A long way away, Ren saw a group of young men and women full of youthful spirit. At the front of this group of college freshmen, Gwen Stacy, who is both good in character and academics and is already an apprentice in Professor Connors's laboratory, is arranging the tour itinerary for the students. "Director Ren, would you like someone to disperse it? No, we can just follow. Directly interrupting Marlena's suggestion, Ren quickly merged into the crowd. With a sweep of the god's telekinesis, he found Peter Parker, who was quite absent-minded among the crowd. Well, it's Garfield's version of Peter Parker. At this moment, the other party was still peeking at his little girlfriend Gwen Stacy in the crowd. There seems to be nothing wrong with it. Among the 3 versions of Spider-Man, there is only the Garfield version of the extraordinary Spider-Man. He was bitten by a spider in the Osborn Company and then became Spider-Man. In the other 2 versions, the location of the bite is not very clear. Maguire's version of Spider-Man was bitten in a scientific observation garden, and the heroine is Mary Jane. The Dutch version of Spider-Man is even more outrageous. It has never been shown. He has already become Spider-Man when he appears, and the heroine is the Indian MJ. But it's okay, the extraordinary Spider-Man version, although a little weaker in combat power, is more scientific and worthy of study. In Amazing Spider-Man, there seems to be a decay formula hidden in an abandoned underground station. At the same time, this is also the only Spider-Man in which the heroine dies. For Gwen's safety, she had no choice but to feel sorry for Garfield. It was Peter. Chapter 15. The 3 versions of Spider-Man are actually quite different from each other. The original version of Maguire can be called the most bitter and grudge-filled fantasy Spider-Man. It is the kind of Spider-Man that is similar to a spider that can grow new organs and spin silk directly from the body. It is also the most powerful. Garfield's version of Spider-Man is closer to the comics, with a simple serum boost, and you have to research your own equipment. The Dutch brother's version of Spider-Man is, well, his father's version of the troublemaker, and his origins are extremely mysterious. The fantasy version is all about luck, and the daddy version is all about imagination. So this Garfield version of the extraordinary Spider-Man is quite satisfying to Ren. At the same time, this is the only extraordinary Spider-Man that is more controllable. As long as Peter's blood and decay formula can be obtained, it may be possible to mass-produce spider serum. In this case, we only need to create a batch of qualified spider warriors. The power under Ren can definitely grow explosively. I want ghost spider, spider serum, lizard serum, and even the entire Osborn Group. Take a deep breath. Ren mingled among the crowd and soon discovered that as he passed Osborn's genetically modified radioactive spider breeding room, Peter in the crowd became more and more anxious. Ren quickly recalled the memory of Spider-Man he had watched before. Although in this stitched world, many movie plots can no longer be taken seriously, the general plot background and inertia are still there. This is something that Ren has personally tested over the past 2 years using small plots. The pure Yang Golden Bell emits immeasurable light in the sea of consciousness. Ren's mind and soul quickly became clear, and the once vague memories began to become extremely clear. That's right, in The Amazing Spider-Man, this Peter Parker sneaked into Osborn Company to investigate the cause of his parents' disappearance, was accidentally bitten, and became Spider-Man. You can't let this kid ruin your plan. Seeing Peter Parker in the crowd becoming more and more restless, he ducked and sneaked into the spider breeding room. Ren finally took action. Hey, that classmate, this is the company's confidential training room, which is not within the scope of school visits. An elegant and clear voice quickly attracted the attention of many people. After Peter Parker was patted on the shoulder by Ren, he felt awkward and nervous. But right now, Gwen also noticed what happened here. Especially after meeting Ren and Peter, I was first pleasantly surprised, and then surprised. Immediately, Gwen, as the organizer of the laboratory, quickly came over, gave Ren a cute look, and then looked at Peter Parker first. Peter, why are you here? I remember you are not on the list of school visitors. Gwen, you couldn't have sneaked in, right? Man, this is no joke. Hey? No, I didn't, I just... Okay, Peter, this is not the place you should be. If you are caught by company security, you will be sent to the police station. Under Gwen's mediation, Peter was ultimately embarrassed and disappointed, and left Osborn Company. Only then did Gwen look at Ren. Ren shrugged and said, "Dear, don't look at me like that. I didn't sneak in. In fact, I just inherited an inheritance and am now a shareholder of Osborn Group. I am authorized to visit the company. If you don't believe it, you can ask this Ms. Marlena. She is Mr. Osborn's secretary." After hearing Ren's words, Marlena understood something and nodded towards Gwen in a friendly manner. After Gwen heard the news, she was stunned for a while and was a little speechless. Ren smiled and said, "Ms. Gwen, I will be your boss from now on. Why don't you say hello to me soon?" Gwen rolled her eyes at Ren and said, "Please, you big-headed devil." The young couple started to make a fuss. However, when the two sides touched, Gwen felt a slight tingling on her arm. She thought it was an electrostatic reaction and did not take it seriously. And this time, Ren, on the other hand, remained calm and put the radioactive spider taken from the spider breeding room into a small box and put it in his pocket. After the two fought for a while. Only then did Gwen remember her job, and she was a little reluctant to leave. She said, "Ren, I'm going to work. Professor Connors still needs me." As she said this, Gwen kept looking straight at Ren. Understanding what he meant, he immediately responded, "How about having dinner together after work this afternoon?" Gwen was delighted when she heard this, but she was in a very good mood and said arrogantly, "Okay, seeing as you are so sincere, I will give you a chance." After saying that, Gwen kissed Ren on the face and left happily. Wait until Gwen leaves. Marlena just said appropriately, "Director Ren, Professor Connors, would you like to say hello and ask him to take care of Ms. Gwen?" Ren shook his head with an inexplicable expression and said, "No need for now, Ms. Marlena, you can tell Norman when you go back and I will stand on his side on the board of directors. But I hope to get some leading authorization on Professor Connors' project. To this end, I can invest more than $100 million in this project. Well, if necessary, Mr. Norman can contact me at any time for more detailed discussions. As for now, Ms. Marlena, it seems that we have no chance to have lunch together. As you can see, I have a wonderful date tonight. I think I have a lot to prepare throughout the afternoon." Chapter 16. Under Marlena's somewhat ambiguous and envious gaze, Ren left Osborn Company cleanly. Just like Ren said, there were a lot of things to prepare for throughout the afternoon. There is nothing to worry about when Gwen becomes the ghost spider. First, according to Luofu world, Gwen originally had the destiny to become Spider-Man. Secondly, before Ren helped Gwen become the ghost spider, he had already imprinted 12 rejuvenation charms into her body. These 12 rejuvenation talismans are the fruits of a full year of cultivation based on Ren's perfect chi training. Even if Gwen fails to integrate the spider serum and her genes collapse, she can still keep them intact. Ren went back to the underground palace this time to prepare for his foundation building. In a capital society, the charm of money is still very great. Gwen had already been in love with Ren for a long time, and now she found out that Ren was a shareholder of the Osborn Group. She was a Diamond King, and she was probably ready to die tonight. And once Gwen sacrifices himself, Ren will also use the Yin and Yang Tao to directly build the foundation. In this way, people must prepare enough Yin and Yang in advance. Among them, pure Yang Qi is easy to say. People have accumulated it early with the natal magic weapon Pure Yang Golden Bell, and can call it at any time. But for pure Yin energy, people need a magic weapon to lock and store it. Fortunately, Ren had been preparing for foundation building a long time ago. As early as a year ago, Ren had already purchased some metal ore obtained on the moon from an official of the American National Aeronautics and Space Administration through secret channels. Taiyin divine iron is the essence of metals extracted from a large amount of gold, silver, copper, iron, and tin. Ren used the 5 ghosts condensation technique of the heavenly ghost sect in the Luofu world to smelt the souls of thousands of people who died, and made a lunar jade ring. In the mortal heart refining furnace, it has been warmed for 365 years. Daytime. This kind of Taiyin jade ring, which is made by combining the two methods of good and evil, is similar to the diamond bracelet of Taishang Lejun. Once practiced, it has many functions such as smashing people, restraining people, banning demons, and storing them. In the annular space of the Taiyin jade ring, there are thousands of souls devouring each other, and the 5 yin ghosts are refined. They can devour all flesh and blood, souls, etc., expand the storage space, and evolve magic weapon restrictions on their own. It's not that Ren doesn't want to use pure righteous methods to refine treasures. But in this ungrateful Marvel world, all the extraordinary energy, natural materials, treasures and other existences have long been divided up by Mephistos and their like in those dimensions. Make bricks without straw. Therefore, people can only use many magic means to strengthen themselves. Anyway, there is no such thing as heavenly karma in this Marvel world, let alone thunder disasters. In this Western world full of barbarians, what happened to the magic methods made with a little flesh and soul? America's Environmental Protection Organization knew about it, so they had to give themselves some penance. Speaking of which, I can be considered an environmentalist, which gives me a bit of a buff. After returning to the underground palace, Ren quickly created a magic formula and took out a jade ring that looked like a multicolored gemstone, flowing with gleaming brilliance from the mortal heart refining furnace. On the jade ring, there are countless fine heavenly symbols and cloud seals, synthesizing forbidden patterns one after another. Infuse a little bit of star spiritual energy. The lunar jade ring suddenly emitted the same brilliance as the lunar moonlight. Through the ring-shaped void, it seemed that a world filled with billowing black mist could be seen. In the black mist world, there are 5 extremely sinister ghosts that devour all tangible and invisible things, and then spit out extremely sinister cold air, freezing time and space, and continuously expanding the space. The ghosts of the 5 yin who like to give birth to evil spirits, barbarians are barbarians, even their souls are full of barbaric and ferocious nature, The lunar jade ring was born, and the 5 yin ghosts in it still wanted to devour the Lord and devour Ren's the god's telekinesis. However, as the golden light bloomed in the human eyes, a pure yang golden bell appeared, and waves of bells came. Suddenly, golden hoops fell on the head of the 5 yin ghosts. As soon as the bell rang, the 5 yin ghost had no sense and was rolling around in pain. After less than 10 minutes, under instinct, the ghost of the 5 yins knelt in the black mist of the void, kowtowing in the direction of Ren, and screamed in a very sad and shrill voice without knowing what language he was talking about. After another 5 minutes, seeing the ghost of the 5 yins spitting out the true spirit of his life, he was put into the heart-refining furnace of the world of mortals and imprinted on it. It was only then that the 5 yin ghosts completely surrendered. They are really like dogs. They don't know what awe is until they are beaten. It took a full year to swallow up so many resources from me, and then spit out a lunar jade ring for me. Looking at the 5-color flying ring shivering in mid-air. His eyes are like diamonds and his voice is like thunder. As soon as he finished speaking, the Taiyin jade ring trembled suddenly, and after brewing for a long time, an almost identical Taiyin jade ring came out. But after spitting out such a new lunar jade ring, the main body of the Taiyin jade ring also dimmed for a while, obviously losing a lot of vitality. Wait until all this is done. Ren just held the 2 lunar jade rings in his hands, put the main body on the little finger of his left hand, and gently rubbed it with his right hand. It turned into a small silver-white ring decoration. The other lunar jade ring was turned into a pink and white ring of the same style by Ren and put into a gift box. Couple model, this is a gift prepared by Ren for Gwen. At the same time, as the differentiated daughter of Taiyin Yahuan, it also has most of the effects of Taiyin Yahuan. The most important thing is that the storage space of the 2 is integrated. The mother body can access the things inside the child body at any time, but the child body cannot peek into the space of the mother body. As long as Gwen wears the ring. Here, Ren can absorb the yin energy of creation emanating from Gwen anytime and anywhere, and it also naturally comes with many functions such as positioning and protecting the Lord. All I can say is that this thing is perfect. Definitely, it's better not to tell Gwen about the evolution and improvement of Taiyin Yahuan's devouring flesh and blood. Anyway, on my side, when the space of Taiyin Yahuan's mother body becomes rich, I can help it advance and expand its space through the connection between the mother body and the child body anytime and anywhere. With something here, people can constantly condense the yin and yang energy. Although it is not as large as the one from dual cultivation, it is better than it is continuous and can flow slowly. Go back and find 2 more Taoist companions. Why worry that the Taoist base cannot be infinitely sublimated? Chapter 17. Ghost Spider, also known as Gwen, is the kind of superhero who tends to be on the side of justice and has a kind heart. When dating this kind of girl, you cannot give her anything like bone beads. As one of the most low-key gangsters in Hell's Kitchen. In the future, Gwen may be able to accept that Ren is a gang leader, and she may also be able to accept Ren's power in collecting corpses as a job, but it will definitely be difficult to end it. Ren uses human corpses to refine magic weapons. As for the bone abyss in the forbidden area of the underground palace, the Hell Lords have to call the experts when they come. When normal human beings see it, their 3 concepts will be shattered into dregs. But this kind of thing, the fairy family in the Luofu world, the magic way is mysterious, and ordinary people must not be able to understand it. This ring transformed from the Taiyin jade ring is very beautiful in appearance, isn't it? After preparing the gift, Ren also changed into decent clothes, and when it was almost 5 o'clock, he randomly selected a luxury car from the garage of the Presbyterian Hospital and arrived under the Osborn building. Not long after, Gwen, also dressed formally, appeared in front of Ren like a muse. "Honey, you look so beautiful today." "You mean I wasn't beautiful before?" "Well, for such a wonderful date, dear Miss Gwen, do you have to be arrogant with your boyfriend? Besides, I'm not my boyfriend, and you haven't even confessed to me yet." "No? If I confess my love now, it won't be too late, right? We'll see how you behave next. Let's talk about where to eat first. Let's agree first that no spicy food is allowed today. Can I have ice cream?" "Okay, you've been exposed." Accompanied by the sound of the two people fighting, the silver-white Bentley Mulsanne left a trail of smoke and dust and drove towards a Michelin 3-star restaurant in the city center. A romantic dinner and a mini concert specially invited by Ren. Finally, amid the sky full of firework, Ren smoothly confessed his love like a half-blood prince from the east. The next trip to the hotel became a matter of course. Who would have thought that there is a paradise hidden in the presidential suite of this hotel? At this moment, people can only become fishermen. Walking by the stream, I forget how far the road is. Suddenly I came across a peach blossom forest, hundreds of steps across the bank. There were no trees in the middle, the grass was delicious, and the fallen flowers were colorful. The fisherman is very different. He keeps going forward, hoping to exhaust the forest. When the forest reaches the water source, there is a mountain with a small mouth, as if there is light. Then he left the boat and entered through the mouth. At the beginning it was extremely narrow, and then he became enlightened. After taking dozens of steps, he suddenly became enlightened. After a peach blossom spring-style trip, Gwen was completely exhausted, her cheeks were dizzy, her delicate body was sweating, and she was also dizzy from the metamorphosis process, and she quickly fell into a deep sleep. But at this time, Ren seemed very relaxed, even refreshed. All we can say is that Ghost Spider is unique and powerful enough. But unfortunately, Gwen faced Ren, who had mastered the yin-yang way of joy. The yin-yang Tao of Hehuan is the most profound Tao of yin and yang that countless talents have summarized over the thousands of years of the Luofu world Hehuan sect. Although I didn't have a lot of fun, it was still a full experience. Gwen needs to be given some time to grow. Ren put a touch of pure yin energy of creation into the lunar jade ring, and pulled the thin silk quilt over Gwen to cover the two big babies. The yin-yang acacia way has a large neck and a deep diameter, which can be beneficial to oneself or win-win for both parties. In this practice, Ren has got what he wants and can build the foundation at any time. At the same time Gwen also received great benefits. With the mutual support of yin and yang, Gwen will be nourished by hundreds of millions of pure yang energy, which will also make her metamorphosis more thorough, with higher potential and greater benefits. Take a look at the pink and white ring on the little finger of Gwen's right hand. After Ren kissed Gwen's forehead gently, he placed a calming charm on Gwen, making her sleep more soundly. Then, Ren also got up and went back to the underground palace. The Taiyin jade ring can store pure yin energy, but it cannot preserve the opportunity of creation within it. Gwen was bitten by a radioactive spider. This physical metamorphosis is so profound that it even involves the evolution and upgrading of the deepest parts of the body, which is a mystery of creation. However, this kind of opportunity of creation is extremely difficult to preserve, and it needs to be integrated into one's own Dao foundation as soon as possible. Fortunately, Presbyterian Hospital is originally located in the city center, so the distance is not too far. After returning to the underground palace, Ren walked straight to the top of Bagua Mountain in the forbidden area of the underground palace, opened the lid of the red dust heart refining furnace with one hand, and then ducked into it. The rolling red dust karma fire comes, like a fire lotus, wrapping people around. The stars are boundless, yin and yang build the foundation, refine. As one after another Genkai hand seals were struck, the Bagua star formation in the forbidden area was operating at full strength. The endless power of the stars, after being condensed by the Bagua mountain, merged into the heart-refining furnace of the world of mortals. At the same time, the pure yang golden bell in Ren's body opened its restrictions, and the pure yang energy accumulated in daily life flowed out instantly. Pure yang energy collided with pure yin energy, yin and yang stimulated each other, and were tightly trapped. In Ren's danshan, the two qi of yin and yang are surging, and there is also a hint of the mystery of creation swimming in it. The mantras of the Tianhe Zhenfa Foundation building chapter are constantly chanted and echoed in the sea of human consciousness, and the spiritual energy of the stars is constantly pouring in. In the end, yin and yang differentiated and gradually formed a Tai Chi diagram. The mystery of creation has turned into a Tai Chi line. With every fluctuation of the Tai Chi line, the yin-yang Tai Chi diagram slowly rotates, drawing the rolling star aura into it and turning it into more pure liquid water droplets. At the same time, through the pure yang golden bell and the lunar jade ring, the two chi of yin and yang are constantly flowing in. The yin-yang Tai Chi diagram also began to become more solid and complete. In the end, pure yang and pure yin completely differentiated, giving birth to the two poles of sun and taeyin. Contrary to Ren's expectation, when the Daiji was first formed, it was already the best. As it enters the foundation building period, people's physical body, true energy, spiritual soul, etc., all enter a state of extreme sublimation at the same time. Similar to Gwen's mutation evolution, but more controllable, more orderly, and more perfect. This is not only a physical mutation and evolution, but also the ultimate sublimation and metamorphosis of the three treasures of Jing, Qi, and Shen. For a while, the heart-refining furnace in the world of mortals kept buzzing, and the pure yang golden bell and the taeyin jade ring gave birth to spirituality like breathing. Ren's decision to build the foundation with the pure yin energy of Gwen's creation was correct. A touch of the mystery of creation not only brought huge amounts of benefits to Ren, but also gave birth to spirituality in the three magical weapons of the red dust heart-refining furnace, the pure yang golden bell, and the taeyin jade ring. Wait until enough spiritual energy is accumulated. These three treasures will directly evolve across levels and automatically upgrade to spiritual treasures. Chapter 18. In the Luofu world, things like protective magic weapons also have very distinct levels. From the initial magic weapon, to the magic weapon, to the acquired spiritual treasure, and finally to the innate spiritual treasure. I won't talk about the lowest level magic weapon among them. Starting from magic weapons, these protective treasures have various and extremely powerful functions. At the same time, magic weapons are also the main protective objects for most practitioners in the Luofu world. If the magic weapon can gain a touch of spirituality under certain circumstances, it can be upgraded to become an acquired spiritual treasure. Just like artificial intelligence, it can continue to grow by devouring materials and deducing restrictions. At first, Ren never thought that he could possess a spiritual treasure. Pure yang golden bell, taeyin jade ring, red dust heart refining furnace, etc. Ren only wants to refine these things into magic weapons, and then refine them with the Dian Duo Bao weapon refining technique of the Luofu world Ling Bao sect. Refining the magic weapon to the extreme, its power cannot be underestimated. But now a touch of the mystery of creation, while helping Ren build his foundation, also gave the pure yang golden bell, the taeyin jade ring, and the red dust heart refining furnace a touch of spirituality. This brings unparalleled joy to life. Magic weapons, no matter how you refine them, have limits. As for things like Ling Bao, whether it is innate or acquired, its growth potential is unparalleled and almost unlimited. According to rumors, if the innate treasure is fully revived, it can rival the Hunyuan overhaul. There is also an unparalleled power that once used the pillars to support the sky to refine the acquired treasure, which can break the body of the ancestral witch of Hunyuan. In this beautiful comic world, pure yang true immortal can already be equated with the top powerhouses at the multi-universe level. Further up, after the three realms of immortal golden immortal, Tai Xian Xian, and eternal great Luo, is the Hunyuan level. Although Ren also knew that it would be difficult for him to refine the pure yang golden bell, taeyin jade ring and red dust heart refining furnace to the level of such treasures, he still had a slight possibility. This is enough to surprise people endlessly. Think a little bit about the bright future. After Ren successfully established the foundation, he quickly stretched out his hand and continued to take the pure yang golden bell back into his sea of consciousness, constantly nourishing it. At the same time, he tied the taeyin jade ring between his fingers again, constantly nourishing it with his true energy. The road is boundless and the prospects are bright. I hope to achieve my goal. Walk out of the heart-forging furnace of mortal world. Ren's figure flashed and he appeared at the exit of the underground palace. His whole temperament seemed to have undergone earth-shaking changes. In the foundation building stage, you have already entered the path, and it has begun to have an otherworldly meaning. Including drawing talismans in the air, using ghosts and gods, transforming into escaping light, traveling through the five elements, etc., they can all be used like arms and fingers. But Ren also knows it. In this dangerous world of American comics, although I have the power to protect myself now, I still can't do whatever I want for the time being. At the moment, Ren doesn't care about most superheroes and villains. But in this world, there are also deeply hidden Ancient One, Odin, God, etc., including Mephisto, Dormammu, Cienso and other dimensions Mephisto, all staring at the earth. When the Taoist mind is intact, it is still necessary to keep a low profile. What's more, Ren originally wasn't a particularly flamboyant person. Whether it's a superhero or a supervillain, Ren has no interest in getting involved. If you have that time, you might as well practice with peace of mind, or practice together with Gwen. Just less than 10 minutes away. Ren had already adjusted his breath to prepare for his post-breakthrough cultivation. When he arrived at the presidential suite on the top floor, Gwen had just woken up from a deep sleep. "My dear, are you going to leave secretly before I wake up?" After undergoing double cultivation with Ren, Gwen did not experience the situation of being unable to control her own power after metamorphosis into a ghost spider. On the contrary, it has the profound effect of yin-yang hehuandeo. Gwen's entire metamorphosis is as natural as it comes naturally. At this time, Gwen's whole body was buried in the thin silk quilt, showing very obvious exquisite curves. The natural charm mixed between girls and young women is even more exciting. Fortunately, Rendeo was determined. He picked up the fragrant breakfast in his hand and said, "Baby, this is the breakfast I spent most of the morning running around to buy just for you. Won't your conscience hurt when you think of me like this? This is really sad." See Ren's drama queen look. Gwen was also amused for a while, and then she put on Ren's white shirt, swung her long legs, came to Ren, and gave him a sweet good morning kiss. "Well, honey, I was wrong about you. Otherwise, come and see if my conscience hurts." Gwen opened the breakfast like a greedy cat, and then gave Ren a charming look. People are a little ready to move. It doesn't seem like it's impossible to examine one's conscience or something, since it's still early anyway. But just when Ren was about to make a move. Next to the bedside, Gwen's pink cell phone rang at an inappropriate time. Almost instinctively, Gwen used her straight long legs to shake on the bed sheet. With vigorous shaking, she bounced the phone up, and then accurately fell into Gwen's hands. After doing all this, Gwen was stunned. "Honey, did you just see that? It's amazing, God, I swear it was instinct." "Baby, I saw it, but I think your focus now should be on your phone. After all, I don't want your dad to rush up with a Remington later." The caller ID on the phone showed it was George Stacy. And through the gradient floor-to-ceiling windows, you can clearly see that on the street across from the building downstairs, George has a dark face, holding a mobile phone, looking towards the hotel from a distance. Next to it, is a formidable Remington shotgun. In the presidential suite, I received a signal from Ren. Gwen looked at George downstairs with a stiff expression, and then answered the phone helplessly. "Hi Daddy." "Yes, I'm upstairs." "Daddy. You are violating my privacy. I am already 18 years old." "Okay, no, Ren and I will go down soon. It will be embarrassing for you to come up." "I promise, I'll be there within half an hour." "Thank you Daddy." The humble author is being cute online and performing 3 requests for readers, begging for collection, begging for flowers, and begging for comments. Chapter 19. It was really embarrassing to book a room with someone else's daughter, but was blocked downstairs. Fortunately, Rendeo has a heart as strong as iron and can still hold on. The police car sped along, and 20 minutes later, it parked arrogantly directly across the street from the Osborn building. It was only then that the low air pressure in the car eased. Comrade George had a stiff smile on his face, looked at his daughter, and said, "Gwen, go to work. Dad has something to do and needs to talk to your boyfriend." Gwen glanced at her old father, and then looked pitifully at Ren. Ren squeezed Gwen's little hand and gave her a reassured look. Seeing this scene, old Comrade George's brows jumped wildly, and his palms were a little uncontrollable, and he touched the Remington on the passenger seat. At this time, Gwen looked at old Comrade George seriously. "Daddy, promise me you won't embarrass Ren, right?" "Dad, I promise you." "Go to work quickly, you'll be late." "Honey, although my dad is very stubborn, you can humor him a little bit, okay? I'll definitely have a great time with Uncle George, give me kiss, muah." After the goodbye kiss ended, Gwen slowly entered the Osborn building, turning back one step at a time. Ren just looked at old Comrade George with an awkward yet polite smile. "Uncle George, we meet again." "Ha! Boy, you are very arrogant. Do you need my old buddy to give you a kiss too?" After his daughter left, Old Comrade George was obviously a little irritable. He was groping for the Remington that was about to explode, trying to put some pressure on Ren. If it were anyone else, it would have worked a little. But it's a pity that Old Comrade George is facing a practitioner with an iron heart. If it is before foundation building. When Ren was not prepared at all, the Remington was still a bit of a threat to Ren. But now Ren has established a foundation, let alone Remington. Even if Comrade George is carrying the RPG, he may not be able to cause the slightest harm to Ren. Definitely, this is not a reason why people can't give face to their father-in-law. Facing Old Comrade George, Ren showed no fear. At the same time, he maintained a certain degree of politeness and demeanor, and said, "Uncle George, I can explain what happened between me and Gwen. But uncle, are you sure you want to be here? This is Manhattan, and my uncle doesn't want to be in tomorrow's morning paper for threatening his son-in-law with a gun, right? George." Looking around, there were already many passers-by looking at the two of them curiously. George put the Remington in his hand into the trunk with a slight embarrassment, then gave Ren a complicated look and said, "Damn BD, come here with me." After 5 minutes, in a relatively quiet high-end coffee shop, George and Ren sat opposite each other. George's eyes were fierce, trying to suppress Ren with his eyes. Ren, on the other hand, calmly stirred the coffee in the cup and confronted George elegantly and politely. "What the hell?" George complained in his heart, feeling that he had lost face. In any case, he is also the sergeant-level officer of the New City Police Department, and the director of the 13th branch. Even the most vicious criminals, not many would dare to stand in such a stalemate. Unexpectedly, it would have no effect in front of this BD boy. Ren Sullivan, one of the 13 black gangs that dominates the underworld, and the leader of the Sullivan family. The family mainly works as corpse collectors and scavengers. "Boy, this is not your capital to be arrogant in front of me. I am a soldier and you are a thief." Seeing that his momentum could not suppress Ren, George immediately opened his mouth and directly revealed Ren's details. In a sense, George was right. A soldier and a thief. But unfortunately, this is the Western world, a world dominated by capital, and the boundary between soldiers and thieves is far from clear. Ren took a sip of coffee and said, "Uncle, in fact, you missed something." George raised his eyebrows and said, "What?" Ren leaned back on the sofa and said calmly, "In addition to the property left by the Sullivan family, I am also the chairman of the Neo-Presbyterian Hospital, a member of the board of directors of Osborn Company, and a member of the American Environmental Protection Association and the International Naturalist Organization. Well, I almost forgot. 4 months ago, the Secretary General of the United Nations personally awarded me the Knight Medal for Natural Environment Protection and asked the mayor to nominate me to run for Parliament." George. The industry in the underground world was left behind by the Sullivan family's ancestors. After Ren took over the Sullivan family, he didn't show up too much, nor did he do too many extraordinary things. On the contrary, on the surface, Ren's name is very loud. In the public world, Ren has a very good reputation. With this background, as long as Ren was not caught by someone with irrefutable evidence, let alone the director of the 13th branch of the NIA Bureau, even the director of the General Bureau of NIA would not dare to treat Ren lightly. Old Comrade George was a little embarrassed. Fortunately, Ren's purpose is not to embarrass his father-in-law. After George came showing a hint of embarrassment, Ren quickly continued, "Uncle, I heard Gwen say that when she was 7 years old, Gwen and Aunt Helen had a huge accident, and Aunt Helen almost died, right?" George was furious when he heard this, slammed the table, and was about to fall out. However, Ren spoke in advance and said, "Uncle, believe me, I have no intention of threatening you." George suppressed his anger and said, "Then what do you mean?" Ren smiled and said, "Uncle, what I mean is that the operating mechanism of this society is like this. Black and white are not so clear-cut. If Uncle has investigated me, he should know that my life is not that depraved, right? Actually, Gwen was my first girlfriend and I loved her. Putting aside the business related to the Sullivan family in the underground world, I think I should be a very good dating partner, right? In fact, with my presence, Gwen and Aunt Helen can have a better and safer life. If necessary, I can also provide a little investment and help for my uncle's career, such as becoming the next director of the Nyoyo General Administration or the next mayor of Nyoyo, asking for collections, flowers, and comments." Chapter 20. Old Comrade George left just as quickly as he came. Even after returning to the police station office, Ren's evil voice was still echoing in old comrade George's mind. Black and white are not that clear. Helen and Gwen could have a better, safer life. He can become the next director of the General Administration of Negotiation. Even prepare to become a mayor in the future. Given Ren's current status and development momentum, the other party is qualified to make a commitment. Putting aside the identity of the head of the Sullivan family, chairman of Presbyterian Hospital, Reserve Council member of New York City, and member of the board of directors of Osborn Group, if Ren can persuade Norman Osborn to give some help. It seems that it is not so far-fetched to negotiate with the mayor. Just when old comrade George was in a daze, all kinds of thoughts were growing in his mind. At the moment, Ren came to the Osborn Group again with ease. It's different from yesterday's simple visit. This time, Ren came with cooperation and large sums of money, which also made Norman Osborn show greater respect. Even Norman Osborn personally greeted Ren's arrival at the door of the Osborn building. A full 100 million in cash. It was nothing when the Osborn Group was at its peak, but since Norman Osborn's family genetic disease began to show up, the group's business has gradually declined. This 100 million in cash can help Norman Osborn buy at least half a year, or even more. That's right. Even with constant pressure from the military and board members, Norman Osborn still did not give up his research on body-strengthening potions. However, as the group's profits have declined, board members have continued to be restricted. Today, Norman Osborn, even if he relies on his past prestige, can only turn his research from bright to dark. In secret research, Norman Osborn, as the chairman, should not allocate funds from the group's finances too much. At the very least, it should not be too obvious. The 100 million in cash Ren brought was a timely gift. As for the price the Osborn Group needs to pay, it is just the leadership of a research project. About Professor Connor's research project on lizard serum. Norman Osborn takes it more seriously, but not as much as he imagined. Anyway, once the project produces results, it will eventually fall to the company. It doesn't matter who has the leadership of the project. If Professor Connors is really dissatisfied, he can only kick the opponent out. Professor Connors is very talented, but he doesn't have 100 million in cash to make people excited. The worst-case scenario is that after the research on the strengthening potion is completed, I can forcefully take back the leadership of the group and then invite Professor Connors back. Half the morning. After a series of haggling, Norman Osborn quickly reached an agreement with Ren. $100 million arrived. As for the project leadership of the reptilian gene flash integration experiment, it was transferred to Ren. Not surprisingly. When Norman and Professor Connors were talking, a very serious quarrel broke out. Then everyone in the Osborn Group saw Professor Connors throwing down his white coat angrily and angrily leaving the Osborn Group. Immediately afterwards, Ren led others and took over the entire research project. With Norman Osborn personally providing guarantee and rectification, Ren's takeover process was very smooth. In fact, Ren doesn't care what the people working on the research project think. After Norman Osborn left, Ren sent people to send most of the babies he collected to the laboratory. For Ren, the lizard serum is not too important. From the beginning to the end, all Ren wanted was the knowledge and wisdom accumulated by Professor Connors during his research. At most, he needed the right to use the Osborn Group's reptile laboratory. Today's people have successfully built the foundation with the yin and yang energy of creation. Along with getting along with Gwen. As Gwen continues metamorphosis and growth, accompany Ren to contact and accept other dual monks. A person's foundation building realm is the same as the Qi training period when he has mastered Tianhe Zhen Fa. He can grow infinitely. At this time, Ren needs to prepare for the next Disha realm. In the world of Luofu, after the foundation is established, it is necessary to smelt the evil energy of Tiangang and earth to integrate the veins of heaven and earth, and use the essence of heaven and earth to continuously smelt the three treasures of essence, energy, and spirit to cultivate the soul. But whether it is the Qi of earthly evil or the Qi of Tiangang, they are extremely precious cultivation resources even in the Luofu world. You can't find it at all in this world. That's why Ren focused on the Osborn Group's reptile gene research laboratory. Among the cultivation methods that people have obtained, there is a kind of wild witchcraft, which can collect countless poisonous insects and cultivate them by cultivating poisonous insects, and use the floating earth energy on the poisonous insects to condense various unique earthly evil spirits. The so-called cultivating goo is to cultivate poisonous insects with the strongest genes through special killing, devouring, and smelting. Only this kind of most powerful poisonous insect can give birth to the origin of earth evil. Compared with the primitive method of raising poisonous insects of the wild witch tribe in Luofu world, there is no doubt that the Osborn Group's reptile genetic research laboratory is more scientific and accurate. There are wild witchcraft and the art of cultivating goo from the Luofu world. There is the Osborn Group's top reptile laboratory with more than billions of dollars. Professor Connors has decades of gene integration research knowledge. Only then can people get what they want more easily, thereby cultivating enough Disha essence and advancing to the Disha realm. The stars train Qi and Yin and Yang build the foundation. Then the most suitable thing for refining evil spirits is the 5 elements earth evil Qi. The Yin and Yang and the 5 elements are integrated into one. If we can collect the time and space Tian Gang, we can cultivate the origin of the universe in our body, with unlimited potential. As for the 5 elements of earth evil energy, it is best to use golden centipede, green lizard, black snake, red scorpion, and jade toad as the main body. Hey, I'm careless. Geckos are also called green lizards, and they also belong to the lizard suborder. If I had known, I should have kept Professor Connors too. But it's not irreversible. If there is no accident on Frank's part, I should have obtained the decay formula by now. With the decay formula, it shouldn't be a big problem to subdue Professor Connors. Chapter 21. On the 36th floor of the Osborn building, there is a reptile genetic research laboratory worth billions of dollars. Ren was wearing an extremely strict white coat, standing like a javelin in front of a huge amount of natural environment simulator. The giant glass box made of super composite materials has various functions such as resistance to high temperature, extreme cold, corrosion, impact, etc. The simulation environment originally used to simulate tropical lizards was reduced by 4/5. Instead, in the simulator, there are evenly divided areas of 5 elements and 5 directions. A simulated area full of cold mineral stones is infested with golden-backed centipedes, devouring various metallic poisonous insects. On one side there is a simulated rainforest area with thunderstorms and green lizards roaming around, breathing poisonous wood gas. In a foggy swamp simulation area, there are black snake shadows sliding, swallowing many aquatic poisons. In a steaming volcano simulation area, red-blooded poisonous scorpions are running rampant. In a rustic plateau simulation area, the figure of a jade-colored toad flickers. This natural environment simulator, which the Osborn Group spent billions to build, is really sharp. It only took less than 2 weeks to simulate the 5 elements fields that Ren needed. And there are research materials left by Professor Connors. Many experimental products cultivated in reptilian genetic laboratories are naturally Zerg. Put those Zerg into the 5 elements environment field. The golden centipede, green lizard, black snake, red scorpion, and jade toad that had taken Ren more than a year to cultivate suddenly began to evolve rapidly. In addition, Ren is cultivated from time to time with his own blood that contains a large amount of spiritual energy. It won't take long for the 5 poisons to evolve and become spiritual insects. At that time, you can start to cultivate the 5 elements of earth evil energy. It's just that with Ren's foundation, the amount of 5 elements earthly evil chi required to set foot in the earthly evil realm is by no means a small amount. If you want to cultivate enough 5 elements spirit insects, you must spend a lot of time and money. Even Norman Osborn may not be able to tolerate Ren occupying this place forever. Sensing the rapid growth of the 5 elements spiritual insects, there was a dim light in Ren's eyes, and he was already thinking about how to take down the entire Osborn Group. And just when Ren was thinking about how to take down the Osborn Group, Trident Building, SHIELD Nick Fury, who was wearing a black windbreaker, stood by the window with his hands behind his back, listening to the reports from Phil Coulson and Hill. The Center family, the ghouls, Frank, and the skeleton monster that can turn into black mist. So what happened to the Center family was that the Sullivan family was cleaning up, right? After Nick Fury listened to the 2 people's reports, his one eye was extremely sharp, and he seemed to be talking to himself, and finally his eyes fell on Phil Coulson and Hill. Phil Coulson had a friendly image and said, "Yes, sir, according to our information, Frank joined the Sullivan family 7 days ago and became the head of the security department of Presbyterian Hospital. In the past few days, Frank has summoned many former comrades to form an action team. Intelligence analysis concluded that the Sullivan family should be preparing for expansion." After finishing speaking, Phil Coulson stood silently. But Hill's already vigorous face showed a trace of evil spirit. "Sir, are we going to target the Sullivan family?" "No." Nick Fury interrupted Hill and said, our S.H.I.E.L.D's mission is only to effectively control supernatural things on a global scale. The conflict between the underworld and the gangs is not within the scope of our responsibilities. Moreover, I got news that both the Irish Black Gang and the Russian Bear Black Gang are dissatisfied with the Sullivan family. Someone will test the Sullivan family for us. We can just watch quietly. Hill is still a little bit ready to make a move. Without him, according to S.H.I.E.L.D's intelligence, when Frank went to destroy the Center family, the skeleton demon driven by Frank was extremely controllable and very powerful. Ghouls are also registered in SHIELD. Even a heavily armed S.H.I.E.L.D agent would require a full team to handle. But the skeleton demon carried by Frank could easily completely annihilate dozens of ghouls. If the skeleton demon and its control method can be obtained, the power of S.H.I.E.L.D will definitely be greatly increased. Look at Hill's expression. Nick Fury looked confident and said with a smile, Hill Agent, the underground world has the meaning of existence in the underground world, and it is even inextricably linked to the world in darkness. With regard to these forces, we should not be too anxious or push too hard. News came from Barton Agent that the ace of the Red House, Black Widow Friendship, has joined us. Just take advantage of this opportunity to try out the quality of this ace Black Widow. Ren Sullivan is just a second-generation black guy, nothing to worry about at the same time. Twist, Hell's Kitchen, Fisk Tower Penthouse Office. Kingpin's huge body was sunk into the office chair. Behind him, a tall African-American man with a square face and albinism remained motionless. Not far from him, a villain with a target painted on his forehead was playing with a tennis ball. On the ceiling in a corner of his room, a man wearing a scorpion battlesuit seemed to be sleeping. And an aristocratic young man who looked like an elite executive kept reporting something to Kingpin. Wait until the noble young man's report is over. Kingpin picked up the cane with an expressionless face and said, Don't worry about the destruction of the Center family. That is the right of the Sullivan family. But tell the Irish gang that the 200 million yuan that belongs to me cannot be less than a penny. As for whether there will be a conflict between the Irish gang and the Sullivan family, that's not our concern. The Irish gang can do things, but those vampire bats must be restrained. In addition, Mr. Marks, my patience is limited. Matters related to the particle accelerator device cannot be delayed any longer, otherwise no one can take my money and not do something. The matter of visiting parallel worlds cannot remain on paper. I want you to start human experiments as soon as possible. Sometimes, you have to make sacrifices. Chapter 22. Neither S.H.I.E.L.D nor Kingpin paid much attention to Ren Sullivan family. Even if the Center family was completely destroyed, it would only attract a little attention. Definitely, it doesn't matter to Ren whether S.H.I.E.L.D and Kingpin despise him. After the Osborn Group's 5 elements spiritual insect cultivation was on track, Ren no longer stayed in the Osborn Group. In half a month, Ren used the equipment of the Osborn Group's reptile laboratory to cultivate 5-element spirit insects, and at the same time, he also reviewed Professor Connors's research materials. It has to be said that the other party's research has reached a very profound level. Use it with the decay formula Frank got from the abandoned station. Whether it is spider serum or lizard serum, they all have extremely huge prospects. However, in terms of suitability, both serums require genetic debugging. There is almost only one example in a billion of people like Gwen, who becomes a perfect Spider-Man after just one bite. Under normal circumstances, if you want to create a genetic warrior, you need to carry out screening, genetic debugging, cultivating insect species, producing serum, and finally conducting injection tests. Even so, it can guarantee a success rate of 70% to 80% at most. Every test subject and every serum costs millions. For Ren, this serum is dispensable and tasteless. But if it is used to build subordinates, it will be enough to quickly create an extremely powerful team. However, making serum is an extremely tedious task. Ren is not prepared to waste his time on such things. Among extremely luxurious cars, Ren glanced at Frank, who was acting as the driver, and said, Frank, I have rarely seen you recently. Has the action team been formed? Frank didn't look back and said, Boss, the action team can be dispatched at any time. Do you want to review it? Ren nodded and said, It's not necessary, you can do it if you think it's okay. Now let's go visit Professor Connors. He is a very good talent and deserves my visit in person. Frank was a little hesitant and said, "Boss, why don't you stop for a while before going, it's not very safe recently." Frank's slightly hesitant words and attitude made Ren a little surprised. As an example of the highest individual combat effectiveness of human beings, Frank is proud in his heart. After joining Ren's command, he has always acted very decisively. Especially during the recent missions, Frank has never shown any flinch or hesitation. But now, being able to change Frank's attitude aroused Ren's curiosity. After pondering for a while, Ren said, "Frank, tell me what happened recently." Frank didn't hesitate and replied, "Boss, it's the Irish gang and the Russian bear gang." Ren was silent, but his aura changed. Frank was under great pressure and continued, "Recently, Ireland has invited some monsters from the dark world, such as legendary vampires, which has caused quite a disturbance in our industry. There is also the Russian bear gang. It is said that they were persuaded by the Irish gang to invite Night Demon, who is quite famous in the killer world." Ren raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "For that batch of 200 million goods?" Frank looked slightly stiff and said, "No, it's to negotiate for the 13 seats in the underground world. The Irish gang is Kingpin's doglegger. It has developed rapidly in the past 2 years. It is normal to want to kill Ren and replace the Sullivan family as one of the rule makers in the underground world of contracting." However, after Ren was stunned for a moment, he laughed. "These barbarians actually went with me. Can't you handle those vampires? With the bone beads given by the boss, it is not difficult to defend. However, those vampires are very good at hiding and there are many of them. There is also the Night Demon from the Acacia gang, which is very difficult to deal with. It doesn't matter, you come with me to the Irish gang tonight, and now you go to visit Professor Connors." "Okay, boss." After getting Ren's answer, Frank quickly stopped speaking and performed the duties of a driver perfectly. At this time, Ren began to think about the next situation. Vampires and the like are not looked down upon by people. After coming to this world for more than 2 years, Ren also knew those so-called vampires. In a sense, vampires can also be regarded as immortal creatures, especially in terms of speed and resilience, which are far superior to ordinary people. However, this creature has too many shortcomings. It is afraid of light, silver, and even garlic. Ordinary vampires, even ordinary people, can cause great damage to them after being fully prepared. Therefore, in human society, those vampires cannot gain much prominence. Especially the base camp of vampires has always been in Europe. Although America's vampires have been developed for a long time after the 13 Blood clans, their blood is impure and they are not considered direct descendants of the Dark Council at all, so they are not taken seriously. Neither the Irish gang nor the vampires were taken seriously. What really makes Ren a little afraid is the Kingpin, the underworld emperor behind the Irish gang. No, to be precise, it was the intricate interest groups behind Kingpin. In the world of capital like New York in America, politics and gangs are never so pure, and are often inextricably linked to capital. As far as people know, Kingpin has interests in negotiating with the governor, the Firearms Association, and the American Navy. If you want to kill the Irish gang, you have to confront the king. When facing Jinping, he had to find a way to deal with the interest groups behind him. Among them, the governor of New York is not difficult to deal with. The Sullivan family, where Ren belongs, maintains a very good relationship with the current mayor of New York. The mayor of New York and the governor of New York State are incompatible and natural political enemies. As long as an agreement is reached with the contracting mayor, it will be enough to overcome the resistance in the political arena. At the same time, the Firearms Association is not difficult to solve. After the down payment is settled, as long as the interests of the Firearms Association are not affected, the other party should not cause trouble. If that doesn't work, you can still ask the Guns Ban Association to take the lead. The real thorny issue is the pressure from America's Navy. But just in time, he was about to invite Professor Connors to join his staff, and it wouldn't take long for the lizard serum to show results. At that time, it would be just in time to use the lizard serum to hook up with the military. Chapter 23. It is not difficult to invite Professor Connors to join him. After all, there is a big difference between Ren and Norman Osborn. As one of the 13 seats in the underground world of New York, the Sullivan family has existed in New York City for more or less decades, and even many ordinary people know about it. The pressure from the mafia giants, coupled with the decay formula proposed by Ren. A carrot in one hand and a stick in the other. Professor Connors, who had not yet become a supervillain, signed a service agreement with Ren after just 2 minutes of hesitation. Almost immediately after the agreement was signed, Professor Connors couldn't wait to come to the genetic laboratory of Presbyterian Hospital and began to continue his lizard serum experiment. The laboratory at Presbyterian Hospital is naturally inferior to the Osborn Group. However, after obtaining the decay formula, Professor Connors' experiment was 90% complete. Even though the laboratory at Presbyterian Hospital is slightly inadequate, it is sufficient for the time being. After all, in the original plot, after Professor Connors became Professor Lizard, he was able to continue his experiments even in the underground tunnels of Nyoyo City. As for why Professor Connors is not allowed to go to the Osborn Group, naturally, it's because Ren has his own plans for the Osborn Group. It would be better to keep the matter of recruiting Professor Connors a secret from Norman Osborn for a short time. After taking care of Professor Connors, it was already evening. As always, Ren invited Gwen to have dinner, watch a movie, and walk on the street. It was only after 3 consecutive phone calls from his father-in-law that he sent Gwen home. And after Ren left Gwen's house and drove 2 streets away, Frank led a full 120 members of the action team to gather around Ren in a way to protect the convoy. The convoy drove silently in the night. Not long after, dozens of convoys arrived directly at the Irish gang's lair in Hell's Kitchen. Cuckold Nightclub. In the rather luxurious car, looking at the huge nightclub with neon lights not far away, the corner of Ren's mouth twitched somewhat. "Frank, are you sure this is the headquarters of the Irish gang?" "Yes, boss." "Is this nightclub serious?" "Boss, it's actually quite serious. The Irish's St. Patrick's Day is also known as Cuckold's Day." "Okay, I'm ignorant, so let's take action." As Ren's words fell, 120 streams of light flew out from Ren's palm. Under the induction of Ren's the God's telekinesis, they accurately penetrated into the bodies of 120 action team members. This is a demon-suppressing talisman written by people with the power of pure Yang Golden Bell, which is designed to defeat yin evil and evil spirits. Based on Ren's current cultivation level during the Foundation building period, a demon-suppressing talisman is enough to directly kill the Count-level Blood Clan. Even the Marquis of the Blood Clan will be severely damaged. And these demon-suppressing talismans are embedded in the bodies of members of the action team, which is enough to protect these people from evil forces. Even subsidiary attacks can cause fatal damage to vampires and the like within a certain period of time. After seeing this scene, Frank also laughed ferociously, put away the ballistic knife in his hand, and got out of the car. Immediately afterwards, Frank issued an instruction. The action team consisting of 120 people quickly surrounded the nightclub in a precise battle formation. After eliminating the threat from extraordinary creatures such as vampires, with Frank's strength and the action team he personally recruited and trained, it is not difficult to take down the Irish gang. As for Ren, he has no interest in fighting those mortal ants in person. What interests Ren more is the owner of the murderous aura that has been hiding around him for a whole day. Hidden, cold, yet sharp. Judging from the murderous intent alone, this is a talent that does not even belong to Frank. The other party has been staring at him for a whole day. Maybe it was because there was too much movement during the day, or maybe because he didn't find a good opportunity, so the other party never made any substantial moves. However, after arriving outside the Cuckold nightclub, the other party's murderous intent has reached its peak. Out of love for talent. After Ren felt that the other party's murderous intent had reached its peak, he decided to give the other party a chance to take action. Open the car door and step out. Ren's gaze fell directly on a high-rise building hidden in the darkness. At the same time, there was a rooftop of a building 800 meters away. John Wick watched the mission target get off the car in the eightfold mirror, and suddenly his heart tightened. In the eightfold mirror, Ren was smiling and waving. "Farkey," John Wick complained, and he was very sure that the other party was greeting him. At the same time, John Wick could feel that when his finger reached for the trigger of the sniper rifle, there was a pinprick-like death crisis surrounding him. "We'll die, we'll definitely die." At this moment, John Wick's hand, which was able to stab 3 people with a pencil without losing his stability, was actually a little trembling. "Night Stalker, John Wick, are you here from the Russian Bear Gang?" Just when John Wick was dazed, a slightly joking voice came from behind. Almost instinctively, John Wick rolled over and quickly pulled out a pistol from his waist. He clenched his hands tightly and locked the target's vital points with precision like a beast. Damn it! But after seeing the appearance of the person clearly, John Wick clearly had the advantage, but a layer of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The person who came was none other than Ren, the target John Wick had seen in the eightfold mirror before. Just a moment. John Wick can guarantee that he will never lose consciousness for more than a second. And in just such a short time, the other party had already crossed at least 800 meters of straight-line distance out of thin air, and quietly appeared behind him, facing the extremely vigilant John Wick. Ren, however, looked calm, as if he saw the other party's doubts, and said, "Don't worry, I'm not a ghost. The reason why I can appear here is just a little trick of the 5 ghosts." Ren raised his hand and showed off his lunar jade ring. Immediately, looking at the confused look on the other party's face, I felt like I was losing interest. Mute, the other party knows nothing about the 5 ghosts' handling. There's no point in pretending, bah, you can't even look stylish in front of people when you're a saint. Otherwise, just kill the other party directly. Asking for collection, asking for flowers, and asking for evaluation. Chapter 24. When Ren felt murderous intent in his heart, John Wick's whole body went numb. A statue shrouded in murderous intent from a foundation-building monk. For a killer with keen intuition like John Wick, it was like falling into the sea of blood in the netherworld. "Sorry, Your Majesty, please allow me to put down my gun and speak." As a member of the Dark World, John Wick is somewhat knowledgeable, and he is quick to intimidate. After all, this world is not just a John Wick world. In a world stitched together by countless movie plots, the real master behind an international killer organization like the Continental Hotel is the Dark Council. And among the Dark Parliament, there is no shortage of extraordinary beings. Night Devil's reputation is quite good among the Neo-Continental Hotel, but it is just a sign launched by the Russian Bear Gang, and it is not considered top-notch. On the rooftop, John Wick carefully put down the gun in his hand, and then took off a lot of equipment. Finally, John Wick knelt down on one knee and surrendered in front of Ren in an undefended manner. Ren looked at the very familiar John Wick and felt a little smile in his heart. "John Wick, you seem to be a little different from what I imagined. Do you have a strong desire to survive?" "Yes, Your Majesty, my beloved still needs me. I heard that you seemed to have retired from the world a few years ago. What made you come to assassinate me?" "It's a blood oath. Besides, I need immortal blood to save my beloved." Facing Ren's questions, John Wick acted extremely sincerely, without any concealment. As for the matter of immortal blood, Ren also knows it very well. Immortal blood is a special potion thrown by the Dark Council to the outside world through the Continental Hotel. It can transform many dying people into dark creatures. Even after becoming a dark creature, it is difficult to survive among human beings. However, under the threat of death, disease, etc., there are still many people who are eager for immortal blood. The Dark Parliament, the Continental Hotel, etc. can all exist semi-openly in the human world. This kind of immortal blood plays a great role. Many people in power have no other choice. Even at the risk of no longer becoming the mainstream of society, he will choose to fall into the embrace of darkness. Just like John Wick right now. His wife was terminally ill, and in order to obtain the immortal blood, John Wick had to return to the world and assassinate Ren under the arrangement of the Russian Bear Gang. Looking at the humble and almost well-behaved John Wick in front of him, Ren felt a little emotional for no reason. To be honest, before he traveled back in time, Ren quite liked the Give Me a Dog's Life series of movies. It seems a pity to kill the other party just like that. John Wick and Frank, who took refuge in Ren, are almost at the same level in terms of combat power. The most critical factor is that John Wick has considerable experience in the underground world. As Ren's power expands, it is also necessary to recruit such subordinates who can take charge of their own affairs. And the most important thing is, John Wick is well aware of current affairs, just like before, even if Ren deliberately revealed a weakness to the other party did not pull the trigger. Regardless of luck or amazing intuition, the other party did not take action. Otherwise, Ren will never let go of anyone who dares to attack him. "John Wick, do you want to save your wife? So that she can be free from pain and suffering, so that she can live in the sun instead of becoming a putrid creature of darkness." Hearing Ren's words, John Wick showed a visibly trembling and excitement. Immortal blood is famous in the underground world. This thing can allow people to escape death, but again, it has serious side effects. Dark creatures such as vampires, werewolves, and liches are all existences that cannot see the light of day. Given the choice, John Wick would never let his wife become a dark creature. "Your Majesty, what can I do for you? John Wick tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart and remained calm. There is no such thing as a free lunch, especially when it comes to life and death. Ren's words made John Wick understand that he was bound to pay a heavy price. But as long as he can save his wife, John Wick is willing. Ren chuckled and handed out a jade charm. In this jade talisman, there is a rejuvenation talisman sealed, which is enough to cure all the illnesses in the world. If you accept this jade talisman, you will serve me until the end of your life. You can choose to refuse, but once you accept, you can't betray. Otherwise, even the dead will have to pay the price. Believe me, even hell and heaven can't stop it. Ren's words are not heavy, but they are powerful. The kind of power that penetrates between heaven and earth seems to be able to break the void and dimensions, making people's souls tremble from the bottom of their hearts. But even so, John Wick only took 2 breaths of hesitation before accepting the jade talisman with great respect. Your Majesty, I will serve you and offer you my loyalty. Very well, go and take off the head of the person who gave you the order in exchange for my pardon for you. As commanded, Your Majesty. Holding the jade talisman in both hands, John Wick lowered his head respectfully. And when John Wick looked up again, there was no one on the rooftop. After seeing Ren's mystery and extraordinary ability again, John Wick was shocked and didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He then tidied up the scene and left in a hurry. Ren didn't pay attention to John Wick's departure. When John Wick took the jade talisman, the other person's life and soul were already in Ren's hands. Compared to the departure of John Wick, the strange aura erupting from the cuckold nightclub in the distance attracted Ren even more. After accepting John Wick's allegiance, Ren quickly used the 5 ghost transporting technique to cross the void and arrived at the cuckold nightclub. In the cuckold nightclub at the moment, there were no customers left for a long time. Bullet holes, gunpowder smoke, blood, corpses, etc. were everywhere, as messy as a battlefield. This scene is really cruel. Frank, this old boy, is as brutal and violent as ever. Walking in the ruins of the battlefield. Following the strange cold aura, Ren soon arrived at the underground floor of the nightclub. Cuckold nightclub on the 2nd underground floor. What appeared in Ren's eyes was a space of slaughter formed by blood. New books are not easy to come by, please collect them, please give me flowers, and please give me reviews. Chapter 25. The action team formed by Frank is no worse than America's most elite special forces. Dealing with gang members like the Irish gang is simply crushing them. Wherever Ren passed, there were basically all those Irish gang members who had been shot. But the strange thing is that after the Irish gang members died, the blood flowing out of their bodies followed a strange pattern and gathered on the 2nd underground floor of the cuckold nightclub. The intense red blood light enveloped the entire 2nd underground floor. In that bloody space, Frank and the members of his action team were shrouded in golden light. Although they were not harmed, they were unable to move at all. Only in the deepest part of the 2nd underground floor, on a huge amount of blood altar, was a blood-colored waterfall surging. At the same time, there were 14 vampires serving as sacrifices on the altar, bound by bloody chains. Daywalker, Willis Snaps. 13 pure-blooded clans. What a huge battle! Can anyone tell me what happened here? A sudden sound sounded in the space on the 2nd underground floor. As Ren's voice fell, the shadow of the pure yang golden bell vibrated slightly in mid-air, obliterating the bloody power that enveloped Frank and others. After Frank and others regained their freedom, a group of action teams quickly gathered behind Ren. Frank looked a little ugly and said, "Boss, I'm letting you down." Ren waved his hand and said, "First of all, what is the situation here?" Frank's face was ashen and he said, "It's Dick and Faith, the supporter behind the Irish gang. The other person is a hybrid vampire who arrested Daywalker and the representatives of the 13 pure-blood clans in advance. With the help of our actions tonight, the other party gathered a large amount of blood and souls and started the sacrifice. The blood god has come, and Dick and Face wants to become the blood god." Following Frank's narration and guidance, Ren quickly noticed the extremely rich bloody space above the altar. In the bloody space, there was a vague figure, and his body was filled with extremely ferocious evil and evil energy. A pure-blood noble from the 13 vampire clans. The half-human, half-corpse Daywalker who is not afraid of the sun, Willis Snaps. Such sacrifices, coupled with the blood souls of hundreds of gang members. In this way, the attention of the Blood Lord from the Hell dimension is attracted, and a large amount of Blood God's power is lowered, and even projection is lowered to create a human Blood God. I have to say that Dekenface's creativity is quite good. If Ren hadn't branded the action team with a demon-suppressing talisman before, Frank and others would have been completely swallowed up by the bloody space. Boss, do you want to blow up this place? Frank, who had regained his freedom, was very afraid of the bloody altar and took out a large amount of TNT. Seeing the survivors that Frank took out, Ren couldn't help but frown. The survival of arms among the Sullivan family is familiar to Ren. If this pack of extremely strong TNT explosives were to explode, it could blow up more than 10 cuckold nightclubs. I really want Frank to blow up this place. If they couldn't wait until tomorrow, they might be on America's terrorist list. Frank acted too harshly. What's more, Ren was a little greedy when he saw the blood space on the altar that was connected to the Hell dimension. There is a kind of inheritance in the Luofu world mark that Ren received, which is very suitable for the current situation. In the world of Luofu, there is a top-notch demonic sect called Shura Blood Evil Sect. His sect has a top-level method that combines magical weapons into one, called the Blood-Transforming Demon Sword. If you want to sacrifice and refine the Blood Demon Sword, you need to obtain 7,749 pregnant women who were born on the lunar day of the lunar month of the lunar year. During the pregnancy, they were infected with blood poison, consuming the souls of the pregnant women, and giving all the nutrients from the mother's body to the fetus. When the fetus is born, you can have a child born from the yin with extremely strong horoscopes. Then these Yinshenzi were thrown into the Shura battlefield, cultivating boundless killing and violence in their bodies. When these yin-born children grow up, they will be skinned and bones removed, and the evil spirit of blood will be refined and blended into the blood. Finally, the blood of the Yinshenzi, which was full of blood evil and violent energy, was sacrificed and refined into a sword embryo. At this point, the demonic sword is initially formed, and with the boundless power of blood evil, it can become a blood-transforming demonic sword that can kill immortals and gods. The blood-transforming demon sword is the same as the 12 Yuan Shen bone gods and demons. It is both a method and a weapon, and has excellent growth potential. However, the 12 Yuan Shen white bone gods and demons are the way to protect yourself. The blood demon knife is a pure way of killing. In this second underground space, Ren can tell at a glance that Daywalker Willis is a born child of Yin. Daywalker's mother was infected with a vampire when she was pregnant. After her birth, she was a child born from the underworld, Daywalker, and a vampire. She was originally burdened with the body of a blood evil. In addition, Daywalker hunts vampires day after day, and his body is full of evil spirits. At the moment Daywalker was tortured by the bloody altar, and every drop of blood on his body was filled with blood evil aura. At the same time, in the bloody space opened above the altar, there is a dimension of blood evil power connected. The time, place, and people are favorable. If this is not used to sacrifice and refine the blood demon sword, where is the justice? After rejecting Frank's suggestion to blow up the place, Frank and others were quickly sent away by Ren. The scene of refining the blood demon sword is, to be honest, a bit cruel. If you are watched by others, it will damage your image of charity and justice. Wait until Frank and others leave. Ren the god's telekinesis swept away, completely annihilating all the soul resentment in this place, and cultivated it into a bloody and vicious aura. Then the Chunyang golden bell appeared, suppressing and sealing this time and space. What a waste of natural resources, what a waste of natural resources. Arriving in front of the bloody altar, Ren took a look at the figure who was roughly swallowing the power of the blood evil in the bloody space, and then his eyes fell on Daywalker. The soul is anchored by the power of the Hell dimension, which makes Daywalker alive a hidden danger. For the sake of human safety, we can only let the other party sacrifice a little. With a wave of Ren's hand, the pure Yang golden bell swayed, and the pure blood clan of the 13 clans turned into powder. The purest blood evil power in a vampire is refined into Daywalker. There are also runes filled with boundless evil and evil spirit, integrated into every drop of Daywalker's blood. 129,600 runes were combined with the blood to form a bloody Ruyi sword. Immediately afterwards, Ren raised his hand and directed more than 70% of the blood evil power in the bloody space into the bloody sword light in the void. Thank you to the readers for the large sum of flowers. Please collect and comment. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.